It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy Anako's here. Alex Lindsay's here, sitting in for Jason Snell. The wonderful Micah Sargent is here. We will talk about Apple's new iPads. They just came out this morning. Maybe take a preview of what they might announce tomorrow. It is Air Week, isn't it, after all? The UK may have gone a step too far in making Apple turn off its advanced encryption for UK residents. We'll talk about that. And the disappearance of the Apple Park Rainbow. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 962, recorded March 4th, 2025. The Brutalist Rainbow. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show we cover the latest Apple news. Jason Snell is on assignment. And I'll tell you why in a moment. Right now, I have to introduce, I'm proud to introduce Micah Sargent, our good friend. Hello.
Here he comes with the snowplow.
I'm proud to introduce the host of iOS Today, which just completed.
Indeed.
And, of course, Tech News Weekly. And Hands on Tech, and my good friend.
Hands on Mac, and it's good to be here,
good
Leo.
To see
I'm happy
you.
To be here with you.
Welcome.
Good to see you, too.
Also with us, Mr. Andy Anako, WGBH Boston. Hello, Andrew.
Hello.
Yes,
I'm proud to meet you. I'm proud to be here as well.
Yes, we're always plowed. Is there snow there? It looks like there is behind you.
Only tiny bits. It's been the thing we're not supposed to worry about, where it's 53 degrees and you start at least getting out the box where you pack up all the sweaters, and then the next day it's like 28 degrees and you're like, oh, I forgot. It's the 21st century.
Yeah. Welcome to the 21st century, where no one knows what's going to happen next. And also with us, Mr. Alex Lindsay from OfficeHours.global. Hello, Alex.
It's good to be here.
Wonderful to see you as always. So I was kind of hoping the MacBook Air would come out today, just so we'd have something to talk about. But Apple threw me a curve. They released a new updated iPad Air with an M3 processor in it.
Yeah,
something was certainly in the air.
Two new
wasn't what I wanted in the air.
Yeah, is that maybe that's why what Tim was saying is that two things in the air. Or something.
Yeah, it's weird. Gurman was like, Gurman's thing was that, we're definitely getting the iPad. We're definitely getting the M4 MacBook Air. We'll probably even get some new iPads, but they pull the old switcheroo. But there's still plenty of time, especially the kind of quote announcements unquote they're doing of late, particularly with this. It was just. There's Apple Newsroom has a post. Here's a new thing. Here's a couple of new things on the Apple Store. I even missed immediately that in addition to the new iPad Air, there was a new 11th generation iPad. So there's really nothing. It's not as though they're going to be stealing the press thunder and losing the news cycle by also releasing the new MacBook Air, particularly if all they did was put a new M4 processor in it.
Did they? I didn't realize this. I know I have a 13-inch iPad Pro. I didn't realize the Air also came in 13 inches. So there's two sizes, 11 and 13. Blue, purple, starlight, space gray, storage up to a terabyte.
Yeah, so they've increased storage.
Which I always order a terabyte now. I don't know why. I never fill it up, but it's just nice to have.
I'm going through that now where I'm so glad that I pumped for the maximum amount of storage on my M1 iPad Pro when I bought it, because the ability to simply say, I don't know if I'm going to want to watch these 8 movies, but I'll copy it on there anyway. That's paid off.
And fingerprint reader, which I like, I love that on my Mini. I almost wish I had that as an option. How hard could it put both Face ID and Touch ID in one machine? I wish they would.
Also, Face ID on the iPad is still kind of cumbersome. I don't know what the right answer is.
It. Yeah,
I kind of prefer the Touch ID.
I much prefer it. Yeah. Plus, because I'm often using the iPad Mini in bed, and my face is all squunched up.
Exactly. I'm watching movies like with my iPad like on my belly, and I have to sort of like make that horrible like quadruple chin move to lift up.
Yes. Oh, I'm glad.
You know what? Maybe I don't want to sign in. I don't want to.
It's probably good for my core, but
I don't need to buy that
A little crunch. It's the iPad Air crunch, or the iPad, the Face ID crunch, where you just sit up a little bit. The other thing is I'm often watching my Mini when I'm brushing my teeth, and it seems to not recognize me when I have something stuck in my mouth. Make your own joke. M3, are we disappointed about the M3? That's kind of feels like that was a kind of an interim chip in between the great M2 and the even better M4.
Well, yeah, at least that's what we heard on the Mac side of things, right? That was part of maybe you should hold out and wait for that to come. I did want to quickly note, the M2 iPad Air was the first one to offer the 13-inch model.
Okay,
so that's
thank you
just
for
a repeat
telling me.
here. And but I was surprised to see that you can kind of get some information about what the company thinks is successful based on obviously how it goes forward. Still seeing those two being offered in that iPad Air model versus the iPad Pro is fascinating to me. But yeah, I think going with the M3 instead of the M4, it almost feels like one thing they're trying to do is differentiate the Air from the Pro model.
True. While
still providing the ability to have Apple Intelligence, right? That's the big thing. Let's get everything onto Apple Intelligence, except for the new iPad, which is interestingly left out. The Kid Pad, as some people call it.
The Kid Pad doesn't have AI in it? Oh,
yeah, it says it's got the A16 processor. So it's like, that gave me pause because I thought, and over the past couple of weeks, I've been saying, hey, isn't it interesting that when they went with the least expensive iPhone, they still made sure that it could do Apple Intelligence. Maybe this means that Apple does not want to introduce anything from this point on that alienates a group of people, saying, no, there are Apple users who have Apple Intelligence and Apple users who do not have Apple Intelligence. So it kind of surprises me that they are saying that, yeah, you guys are going to have to correct your own mistakes from now on. I mean, it says something when they do want to keep the price low. So that does say something about the cost of Apple Intelligence, both with putting extra RAM in and giving the CPU support. But okay, so I guess I have to change my thinking that maybe Apple isn't everybody deserves Apple Intelligence no matter what their stature.
It does feel like they're marketing this to younger people, students. It says it's lovable, drawable, magical. $349 is a great price. Remember, the iPad started at $499 when it first came out. $349, fantastic. Yeah. Although that's $20 above the old price last time. Yes, or am I wrong?
That's it was $329. I think
$329. Yeah.
$300 for educational. I wonder what the educational price is now.
Yeah, available March 12th. And again, the super fast A16. That sounds like it's aimed at younger, more gullible,
super fast,
more gullible people, more colorful for sure. I mean, starts at 128 gigs of storage, so that means the base $349 model is more than adequate for. In fact, let's say that right now. When even though I'm deprecating the M3, it's frankly more than anybody needs ever on an iPad. It's you don't.
I mean, there are definitely a handful of places where you may want to use something more powerful, but it would be, this is 95% of someone who would buy an iPad, this would do the job. It would probably do 95% of what I use an iPad for. I mean, I definitely use some of the other stuff from the pros, but not the newer ones. I mean, I have older ones, and this one, I think that is squarely aimed also at schools and education, and with the educational discounts and everything else, it has to live in that space as far as cost perspective.
Still is a Magic Keyboard Folio available. I don't think it uses the Pencil Pro. Is that right? It uses the regular pencil.
Correct. The USB-C version. And I wanted to note too, it starts out this iPad at double the storage of what it had before. And to me, that points it to even more being a kid pad, because one thing I've seen is a kid gets very tired of their huge game app that they want, and they want another one, and they want another one, and they want another one. So now parent doesn't have to delete old apps to download new ones and then have the kid go, actually, I want to play that one again that they already deleted. Now you just got lots of space to download all your fun little apps that you want to play, and it's not an issue anymore.
I am interested as what teenagers get these iPads, or they're aiming at that younger crowd. My experience right now is mostly on those iPads that you see schools use them. You see parents with younger kids use them because you give them to them in the car or in the airport.
I can't go to a restaurant anymore with kids. They're all watching their iPads, or the disadvantaged ones watching mom's iPhone. But that is the babysitter of choice now.
It's something you can put in your, I mean, I know that in when we flew, with our kids much more often than we do now, when they were really little, that was the thing you did, is you handed them an iPad and in the plane, and they just went off into Never Never Land and enjoyed the plane ride without having your 3-year-old.
I think that's okay for a plane, occasional. It worries me a little bit if it's like every day.
We were very analog. I know that I seem very techie, but I have a room full of tech, and then I walk out and almost no tech in the rest of my house. I mean, kitchen. And
give the kids some bongos or something,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely at a restaunt.
But when we go out, we go out to talk to each other. I don't know, like that's. But I think it's hard. I mean, I think that a lot of parents have had a hard time following whatever they were supposed to do with their kids, and the kids are hard to manage. Our kids are pretty great when it comes to going to dinner. Like they're not.
And you have wonderful, smart kids, and it's probably
my wife's fault.
That. That's your wife's fault. It's definitely
so,
Hey, and I should say that even though Apple's really clearly marketing this towards education and younger people, that anybody who wants an iPad and doesn't have hundreds of dollars to spend, this is a great choice.
What I didn't get to is that I think that the big market that we see in the airport, the big market I see in my family, the big part is the over 50, over 60 crowd that just wants something to check email and throw in. They don't.
We oldsters love the iPad.
It only takes one really bad virus with the PC that they bought at Best Buy for them to just go, well, how do I not have this happen again? And you go, well, just get an iPad. You'll be able to do all the things you were doing before, except you don't have to worry about all those other things that that happen to you.
Yeah, that's true. In fact, my daughter is using a Chromebook, and she's ready. It's her birthday's coming up. And she's ready for to replace it because the question mark key doesn't work anymore. There's 2 keys that don't work anymore, so she has to copy it and paste it into her text when she writes. And this has been going on for more than a year. And I said, please let me get you something.
Right.
And now I'm thinking maybe an iPad with a Magic Keyboard would be a good choice.
Yes.
If she's used to the Chromebook, right, it's going to be a step up from that.
Yeah, it's a wonderful bargain. The other day I saw someone make a half joking but half serious decision tree on like what kind of operating system to choose. And like the first decision tree was, do you want to be bothered? Do you not want to be bothered? If you don't want to be bothered, okay. Do you have a trust fund? Do you not have a trust fund?
Right.
And on that decision tree is, if you have a trust fund, go get an iPad, go for iPad OS. If you do not have a trust fund, get a Chromebook.
So now that the new iPads are out, it sounds like, do you think that was there's something in the air? No, there's going to be a MacBook Air, an M4 MacBook Air, right?
Yeah, I think it's Air. It's just it's a week of air, right? A week of hot air.
All week. So the MacBook Air now maybe tomorrow, right? That's what Amber Neely is saying on Apple Insider. Yeah. Mark Gurman also says that. Expect the MacBook Air tomorrow as part of the new product wave.
Do you wonder?
Which implies there might be more air in the air.
I think so. Do you wonder if Apple told some people that the MacBook Air was coming first and told others that the iPad was coming first, so they could try to figure out who's telling who what?
A maneuver worthy of a Romulan. Very well thought.
Is there a name for that? Is that like a
Canary Trap?
Canary Trap, yeah.
Canary Trap.
I know that there was a story that Steve Jobs told 3 executives what the code name was, instead of if this code name gets out, all 3 of you are fired. He's like, I'm not trying to figure it out. I'm just going to fire all 3 of you. And the code name got out, and he fired all 3 of them, and that solved that was a very quick at Apple that I heard that's what tightened things up in the 90s, late 90s, was Steve showing that there's nobody above leaks.
That's better than sending out a fork in the road email, I think. Just, really. Anyway, so tomorrow the MacBook Air 4. Do we know why Mr. Snell is not here? Did he say?
I don't know if he said, but I don't believe
briefed, right?
I don't believe it's related to an Apple briefing.
He is actually on vacation.
Okay.
What?
Yes.
Vacation, John Ashley. Mm-hmm. Don't get any ideas.
Yeah, he's
vacation.
He's in a vacation at Resort Cupertino. It's quite nice. It's it's like
what he won't see there? He won't see the rainbow. The arches have been pulled down.
Rainbow stage.
to be pulled be rebuilt. Well, it was never intended to be permanent, right? It was.
Yeah, it made its first appearance in 2019. Johnny Ive said that at the time that it wasn't. It was, I believe it was meant to stay, but that version wasn't meant to be permanent. And so this started getting traction on like Reddit and other like sub Rosa sort of forums where someone managed to find an image on Google Earth that said here that basically had image of like the rainbow stage completely torn down and stuff. And a lot of people and some people were thinking, oh my God, they're giving it to DEI, they're tearing down the rainbow.
Oh dear. No.
But other people saying no, it was never meant to be permanent. They're actually replacing it with a permanent structure. So you can still take a look at the images, but apparently people who are inside Apple have said that they know that it's being rebuilt into a permanent structure.
IB6 Media in his YouTube short talks about, it's really actually quite good. He talks about the genesis of it. It was created kind of as a stage prop, probably made out of balsa wood, right?
It wasn't. Yeah, it was. I think it was built. Lady Gaga played there, and I think
that's right.
I think that was it was. I think it was built for that stage or with that stage.
Like all the buildings that were built for the San Francisco World's Fair, where it's all made out of like plaster and plaster and straw. Right. And if you want to keep it, you're going to have to tear them down and replace it with actually built stuff.
What's funny is Apple's version of balsa wood lasted 6 years.
Yeah,
yeah.
So because to be fair, it's not something. There's no actual stage there. They're just like arches that are on ground, and I don't think anybody wants to be the one who like got caught trying to take a selfie at the top of the arch and caused the whole thing to come crashing down. That's a career limiting selfie.
Yeah.
IB6 says it was built by Stageco, which is a Belgian theatrical stage designer.
Oh yeah, I've hired them. Yeah.
You've hired them for your birthday party?
Exactly. Yeah.
If you can imagine it, we can build it. Concert stages.
A balsa wood turtle to stand.
Yeah, and note they say temporary structures, outdoor structures. If it's outdoors, which it is, and it's subject to the weather, it's not surprising.
They were like, "Oh, it's time to
every 6 years." Yeah.
I wonder what kind of concrete they had to get for it.
They should get Adrian Brody in and make it out of gray concrete. Make a real brutalist rainbow.
no color whatsoever. Replace all the grass around it with bricks. Go do exactly what Boston did to City Hall Plaza in 1970. Just make it a desolate Soviet, make it into the place you go when you want to beg the commissar for any information about what happened to your dissident Poe and uncle.
So Johnny,
I feel like we have at least a candidate for the name of the show, the Brutalist Rainbow.
Absolutely,
it's gray Skittles. Eat the Brutalist Rainbow. Tim Cook, something in the air this week. He did say week.
Yeah.
He didn't say this Tuesday.
You can see how high it ran, though. They didn't even make a video for it. I mean, it's they used to do events for these things, then they used to put out videos on YouTube.
There's no iPad video.
I couldn't find one on their YouTube channel, so we were like,
the newsroom article doesn't have a link to it.
Yeah, it's
tomorrow. They're busy making the MacBook Air video. Yeah. That's their best-selling computer, right?
Not only that, but the iPad. All of the iPads got one press release. It wasn't they did a separate one for the iPad 11 and another one for the iPad Air. So this was definitely we decided that we're just going to put some new components in here.
And I think that it's important for them to release it. This is the time when budgets get sorted out for education, and I still think that this is probably a vast majority of these purchases are spring for the fall education season, and so I think that it has that iPads or these types of iPads have been released in March or April for many years. So when they're released, this is the time to do it. Is to so that people can make their choices.
Yeah. Apple introduced one press release 5 hours ago. At the same time, they released a press release announcing Friday Night Baseball is coming back to Apple TV. So you can see how important it is. It's right up there with the Friday Night Baseball. Okay. Well, but I think this is, honestly, I think this is a great product. It's funny. A couple of weeks ago, I think it was Jason picked Tapestry, or was it you, Andy, who picked Tapestry from Icon Factory as their pick of the week. It's an iOS app that's a news reader because it does social. I tried it out. I tried it out on my my Air Pro, my M4 Air Pro, and it's so good. That's now what I use most of the time. I've stopped using the laptop as much.
Oh, yes.
because it's a great news gathering. That plus, I know you recommended Raindrop. Those two together really make my news gathering much easier. I wish there were a better mail app. We should talk a little bit about this. There's been a lot of complaints about the updated Apple Mail app with Apple Intelligence. How do you all feel about that?
It's really hard for me to get out of it. I mean, it's just like I know how to use it. I try other ones.
It sorts your mail now, though, right?
Well, I turned almost everything off in it. My biggest problem is it's got all kinds of bugs that it's had for years, specifically with Exchange servers. That if you're in Exchange, for instance, if you have a folder, if you like to do things in folders on them, and you have an Exchange, if your company is in Exchange, and another Exchange person sends an email and you sort it automatically into their folder, it doesn't go there. It just
that's not good.
And there's no.
That's always been the case, right?
Been that case for at least 5 years.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that it's one of the few apps, I guess, because a lot of people have it, that Apple has, that doesn't have any feedback. So it's not like a bunch of people can tell them that something's wrong. There's nowhere to say, hey, my messages isn't working.
You can't shake your
exactly.
It's wrong.
Shake your mail. Yeah, I don't use Apple Mail. I use MailMate on the Mac and Fastmail's apps on iOS and iPadOS. So I haven't been experienced to it, but I've been seeing so many complaints about it on Reddit. I always thought I'd ask if people are using it.
Yeah, I think part of it is change, and especially with something that you think about when you're using a mail app. It really is. I don't know that many people are going into their mail app with any level of excitement and interest.
Yeah, nobody loves mail.
It is a thing that needs to be just sitting in the background. You don't want to spend cognitive loads going through your mail. And so when you have a change to something as kind of in the background for you, as atmospheric as a mail app, any level of change and interaction is going to make you frustrated because you can't just interact with it how you would expect. I recommend doing what Alex has talked about there, which is just, if you don't like those features, just turn them off. You can decide to turn some of them back on if you want to, but I agree that it's difficult to introduce new features to an application that is supposed to be, I get in, I do what I need to do, and I get out. I come, I eat, I leave. I come, I eat, I leave.
And I think that's the issue is that I think that one of the things that Steve Jobs talked about a lot was that how important it is to say no. And I feel like Apple has lost the ability to say no to lots of things. And they just keep adding features to, whether it's photos or mail or other things. They keep adding features because, I don't know, other people have those features. But it's I find myself constantly saying, if I wanted an Android phone, I'd buy an Android phone. Like, I don't need it. I don't want it to do all these things. Like, I don't want it to do everything that Android does. I want it to be simple and easy and kind of be in the background. I don't, like, there's things that and I feel like Apple keeps on. Recently, I've become a little bit more sour about it because I just keep on feeling like Apple keeps on adding stuff that I didn't ask for or want, or even what Apple used to do is surprise and delight. They put something in, and I go, oh, I never thought of that, and now I love it. I don't have that feeling very much. I mostly think, oh, I never thought of that, and I wish that they hadn't either. And so I just, so it's
gee, never thought of that.
Yeah. And I feel like that's happening, often for me now with Apple apps of like, I don't need you to add, I didn't need this to become more complicated. I just need to check my email. Like, I don't, and I don't know, in today's business world, I don't know how busy email is. I mean, I'm hard to reach by email. I live inside of a bunch of other text apps and I spend a lot of time in databases and stuff like that. I don't really need my email to get any more complicated or any cooler or any better. I just need to know what people sent me.
Yeah. Okay. I was just curious. I'm very old school with MailMate, but it does the things. The main thing it does is it has an unread rule that makes it very easy for me to see the stuff that I want to see. And that's all. Mail. You're right. Mail should just be utilitarian. Don't make it too smart.
Make it brutalist, please.
You make it brutalist email.
Well, especially for the pack-in version of a mail app, it's basically the people who are not looking to replace whatever mail app comes built in with a device aren't looking for advanced features. They're basically looking for something no more sophisticated than the Gmail web client. So if you can deliver that feature to everybody by saying, here is a basic mail app, it will not cause your iPad to overheat. We're not going to do an update that changes everything and makes it really more difficult for you to deal with what already is one of your biggest problems of the day. If you want something more complicated, I can direct you to all these other apps on the App Store, but we're going to keep things simple. So
that's the good news, is that it has spawned a large ecosystem of alternative mail apps.
Yeah.
So it's good when, in a way, it's good when Apple doesn't do a great job, because that means there'll be a lot of other choices.
I guess that not great job as a user is, I just wish that they would just not do very much. Like, I don't need them to keep
Microsoft
adding.
did that for years. They'd make kind of half-assed built-in apps with that, and so that would kind of support the ecosystem for better video editors, better mail apps, better everything.
I mean, you got to have something there. And again, I think that a couple of years ago, mail was, other than this Exchange server issue, mail was as good as it needed to be.
Right.
Like it does the thing that I needed to do. I don't need you to, that team, what I needed to do is be stable and not throw away my emails by accident, which is what it was doing.
That's the worst. You're right. That's the big thing.
Right. I just need that
First,
to work.
do no harm.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's nowhere to tell them that it isn't working other than the show. So here it is. like there's no way for me to tell them.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you're watching this show, shake it really hard and
exactly.
and send a report. Now, there are people who like it. Most of the people in our various chats agree. Leftward, though, who's watching on Twitch, hello, Leftward, says, I really like the categorization. It cleaned up my inbox. So there are people who like it. I remember when Gmail did that. Right, they had the categorization, and it made it easy to. Yeah, everybody hated it too. In fact, it's gone now, isn't it? I think they got rid of it. All right, let's take a little break, and we'll come back. We will do the Vision Pro segment. There's a lot to say this week about Vision Pro. We will also do. I think we should just do every Tuesday what Mark Gurman said on Sunday.
Yeah,
because as usual, he's dumped a lot of information.
He's responsible for a lot of Mac news sites having a lot of things to write about on Monday.
Yes, they all just rephrase his newsletter.
They should send him one of those flower baskets that's made out of fruit every single birthday.
Yeah. I actually they made it paid only at some point. The Power On newsletter, and my choice is to pay for it.
And by the way, congratulations! I found out that he's been promoted to editor-in-chief of consumer stuff.
Wow!
At Bloomberg.
Oh, nice.
Good for him. He deserves it. He's amazing.
Again, he delivers immense value to Bloomberg and to the community.
Yeah,
good for him.
Yeah, and quite a discovery. He was in high school when 9 to 5 Mac. Seth discovered him, and he's gone on to bigger and better things ever since. He still looks like he's in high school, however. that hasn't changed. All right. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Andy Iannacco, Alex Lindsay, filling in for Jason Snell this week. Always pleased to have Micah Sargent with us.
Good to be here.
This episode brought to you by Zocdoc. This is something you ought to know about. I know you're a hypochondriac, Micah, so I'm sure you have. That's mean. But Lisa says I'm a hypochondriac. It's true. But like a lot of guys, I push off going to the doctor, right? I grew up, they said, rub dirt on it, walk it off, you'll be fine. When was the last time you needed to go to a doctor, but you put it off? You're too busy, it'll heal on its own. I say that all the time. My attitude is, the human body's a miracle. It'll fix itself. It doesn't always. I don't need help. We've all been there. Booking a doctor appointment. Part of the reason is it could be daunting. But thanks to Zocdoc, there's no reason to delay. They make it easy to find and book a doctor who's right for you. Now, I've used it, by the way, and it's been very effective. Zocdoc. It's a free app or website. You can do it either way, where you can search and compare high-quality, in-network doctors and even click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers. And it's not just MDs. It's mental health, dental health, primary care, urgent care. You can filter for doctors who take your insurance. You can look at the location so you don't have to drive a long way. Or if you're willing to, you can expand the radius. And of course, docs were good fit for any medical need you might have. But the best thing for me is the reviews, because they're from verified patients, and they also help you understand what kind of doctor this is. Because some doctors are, I'll give you all the options and let you choose, and then some doctors are, I'm just going to tell you the best thing, the thing you should do, no discussion. And some people like the former, some people like the latter. You get to choose And that's what's great. And there are now so many docs on Zocdoc. You're going to find somebody that's just right for you. Once you find that person, you can see their actual appointment openings. You can choose a time slot that works for you. Then you can click to instantly book a visit. Plus, often an instant visit. Zocdoc appointments happen fast, typically within 24 to 72 hours of booking. And let's face it, when you need a doctor, you need a doctor now. You can even score same-day appointments. Look, I love Zocdoc. I used it. I recommend it. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments. You can do it on the web or on their app, but do us a favor. Go to Zocdoc.com/MacBreak so they know you saw it here. Find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. Zocdoc.com/MacBreak. Zocdoc. Can I play that again? That's called The Little Victory. See, that's how you feel when you get the right doctor at the right time. Thank you, Zocdoc, for supporting MacBreak Weekly. Bloomberg newsletter, Power On. I do recommend it. Bloomberg is not cheap. I buy it so you don't have to. But I think if you want to support Mark's great work, it's worth it. Let's see. Is this the current one? I always have to check.
Yes,
March 2nd. Apple's artificial intelligence efforts reach a make or break point. This is the one where he says it might not be till 2027 before AI truly comes to Siri. We know 8.4 has a Siri update in it, but he says Apple's really struggling with Apple Intelligence. He says all this undercuts the idea Apple Intelligence will spur consumers to upgrade their devices. There's little reason, this has got to be bad news for Apple. There's little reason for anyone to buy a new iPhone or other product just to get Apple Intelligence, no matter how hard Apple pushes it in its marketing.
I just don't think that's why they're buying those things.
I agree with you. I
just think that there's this whole thing of like, oh my gosh, the world's going to fall because Apple Intelligence isn't working. And I'm like, I'm an Apple user. I'm probably not going anywhere. There's a massive ecosystem that I'm in the middle of.
And you use AI all the time, but you just use third-party clients.
Yeah, I mean, I have like 5 or 6 AI tools that are specifically good for the thing that I use them for, whether it's Runway or Midjourney or ChatGPT or Claude or, and all of these. And my family uses, mostly ChatGPT, but like when I'm driving, I just turn on the ChatGPT voice thing and I'm sitting there asking it questions and talking to it the whole time. I don't feel the need for Siri. And I have a very low expectation of Siri. I'd be happy if Siri just didn't give me the live version of the song that I asked for.
I know.
Like literally, if they
wouldn't
fix
you
that
like it
one
though if
thing,
Siri were smarter? Wouldn't that be nice?
Sure. But I guess I don't like. Again, it would be nice, but it's not a must-have. I don't feel. And again, I talked about this on another show. I asked my wife what she thought about Apple Intelligence. She didn't even know it existed. And so I think we live in a bubble where we talk about this and think about it all the time. I think the average Apple user doesn't care.
And even if they do, you're right. Apple has a value proposition independent of its AI.
Yep.
And if you do care about AI, I've attached the action button to Perplexity, my AI of choice these days. So I can do what I would do with Siri, but I just do it with Perplexity.
Right.
We bought new phones before Apple Intelligence came out.
Can't respond in Luxembourgish. You can change the language preference and settings if you like. Let's stick to English for now.
Thought I was
buddy.
speaking
Hey, buddy.
Luxembourgish.
Not helping.
Is there a language called Luxembourgish?
I didn't realize there was. Is there?
Yes. Luxembourgish is a language spoken in Luxembourg.
Oh,
It's
You
one of the
idiot.
country's
That's what it
three
sounds like. She's not the
official
word.
languages, alongside French and German. Would you like to know more about Luxembourgish?
Absolutely
sound fun to
not.
talk
But
to.
I would like to know, did Mark Gurman get a promotion? Let's see how current she is.
I didn't find any recent information about Mark Gurman receiving a promotion. If you have any other questions or need
kind of a slow
information,
speed.
So that's
I just don't
that's
like
Perplexity,
I don't like the way she
and that's
talks.
fine, and that's on the action button. That's almost as good as Siri. I would prefer that all my Siri devices were not so stupid.
Yeah, especially because they all have access to all of my Apple information.
Right.
That's the big thing for me. That is why I am excited about it, even if it means it's going to be a while. It's the idea that I have felt comfortable giving Apple access to the information that I have. And so if the company is able to know my calendar as it does and know even my messages, to know these different things locally or in double encrypted, triple encrypted, whatever. I want that functionality to work across these devices, which we don't have.
Interestingly, exactly Mark Gurman's point. He raises the Amazon Echo event of last week. He says, I attended the debut in New York City. It felt like seeing the first ChatGPT demonstrations 3 years ago. In other words, his feelings were this is going to change everything. But he does point out this is where Apple has an edge. Amazon lacks an ecosystem of information that Apple has that could make it so much better.
And I think we already see that they, even when they're careful, it makes mistakes. And ChatGPT makes mistakes all the time.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, that's Chat, like whatever. Like I've learned to know what to pay attention to and not with all of these apps. They all hallucinate a little bit. They're like all a little like your crazy uncle that is, very smart some of the time and then just says crazy things for no reason.
What's holding Apple back?
I think it is. I think that this carefulness of not wanting it to impact the reliability that Apple kind of builds its brand around makes it very, very hard to, and it's the same thing like when I do live streaming. There are types of live streaming. I know, it's crazy. There are types of live streaming that I won't do because, I get that you can go up with your laptop and your webcam and go out and shoot something, but the chances of that failing are so high.
Right.
That's something that somebody can do as a business, but it's not me.
Well,
right?
just take it from me. It also could piss Steve Jobs off and keep you from ever again being invited to Apple events.
But the point is that I look at it and I go, and I volunteer for things where I do those crazy things because I can't do it as a company. But there's a certain level that you have to work at if people are hiring you and depending on you to do stuff. And I think Apple has the same problem where they we depend on it, like the BBC threw a fit when Apple it said the wrong thing on whatever's there. They're not throwing a fit every time that ChatGPT makes a mistake because it makes mistakes all the time. And so the thing is
but
that
they
I think
expect more of Apple.
I don't
is
think
what you're saying.
I think everybody expects more of Apple, and Apple expects more.
Apple expects more of itself.
But that inner voice that is constantly correcting makes it almost impossible to innovate in this area. And I don't think that it's not that they won't do it. I think that it's a much harder thing for them than almost anybody else.
Well, I do think that there's some whistling through the graveyard here. I agree 100% that this is not an immediate thing where if they don't get something out fast, no matter what it is, and demonstrate to customers and analysts that, oh, yes, we do know what we're doing about AI and we do have a plan for AI, that Apple's going to be doomed for the fourth or fifth time. That's not a thing. They've got time to get this right, but they don't have time to not show that they found their car keys and not just standing in the hallway patting their pockets when it comes to AI. Another interesting piece of news a few days ago is that Google updated their Google apps so that now you can have Gemini AI lock screen widget. So now you can talk to Gemini Live directly from the lock screen of your iPhone. Now you can use Google Lens directly through the iPhone. All this other sort of stuff, and this is. You don't want people you don't want your customers to go away and forget that these are features that Apple can actually do or are even interested in. Imagine
but wait a minute, maybe Apple should just abandon this and say, everybody else has got this. We're just going to make the platform.
They can do that. I mean, they can do what they did with Google search, which is that this is not something that we're terribly interested in. This is not something we're going to pivot on. We're okay if people use, or even on our own device, we have to farm out this search function under the radar to an outsider. But there are things about having these things integrated directly into the hardware. BBC wasn't necessarily angry with Apple because it was Apple. When ChatGPT makes that problem, when Gemini makes that problem within an app, this is happening with, you're asking an AI specifically a question, the AI, whom you know is unreliable, is giving you an answer. They were upset because Apple did this, these notification summaries feature in a very, very silly way, which is to create a notification that looks like every other notification from the BBC app with no indication that the notification news summary did not come from the BBC directly. That was the big problem. Yeah. So all I'm saying here is that we can't simply say that, hey, well, we don't, hey, I never use, I don't think artificial intelligence is important. I don't think people actually use it. People are going, just like there are times when people did not use search engines. There are times when people didn't use the internet, didn't use browsers. At some point, these people are going to start to drift in from outside, and you don't want them to take one look at what Apple has and see that, okay, they have nothing, or they have nothing that actually works. And suddenly this phone, which already can do so many things, no matter who made the phone, AI is another thing where it doesn't matter if I get an iPhone or if I get an Android phone, doesn't matter, because this is just the host organism for my chosen subscribed AI service, whether it's Google, whether it's Claude, whether it's whatever.
But Alex's point is that people don't choose the iPhone. They choose plenty of other reasons to choose the iPhone, the cameras,
like the camera,
hardware. Yeah,
like every time.
So as long as Apple can present an AI experience that is as good as it is on another phone. Which I think
I'm saying is I don't think that they're in a make. I agree with Andy that eventually that Apple's going to need to have a great AI solution, and I think they have the opportunity to have the best AI solution because, as Micah said, they have all of our information, and we trust them to look through that information in a way that we don't trust almost anybody else to do, because security is and privacy is such a big deal for Apple on your phone, at least, right? And so I think that Apple has the opportunity to really own this market in a way that it'd be very hard for others to own it. I don't think it's a big rush, though. So when I see these kind of apoplectic make or break, it has to happen this year.
Sure.
I think 2027 is fine. Like I'm not going to miss it between now and then. Yeah. I've got, again, and the problem is that I'm not using one AI tool. I'm using 6 or 7 of them, or 5 or 6 of them that are doing different things that all do what they do better. And so that in those, I don't know how Apple would compete. I think if Apple had a great Apple Intelligence right now, I would probably use it 10% of the time, because the other ones that I'm used to using that are specialized in the area that I'm using them for are way better than Apple's going to be anytime soon, or anybody else is going to be, doing what they do, And so I think that's the issue is that those of us who are really into AI aren't looking for one tool to use for AI, and so Apple would have a hard time even fitting into that ecosystem in a way that mattered to me, and so, but I do think somewhere down the road of me going, like me being able to tell Siri, hey, I know I keep on using this as an example, but it's a good example because it comes up all the time for me. Hey, when I ask for a song, I never want to hear the live version unless I ask for the live version. I just want to say that once, and then through all my devices, I never hear a live version when I ask for the Eagles, or whatever it is that I'm asking for. I don't want the live version ever, and so the thing is that but that's the kind of stuff of being able to tell it, this is how I want my world to exist when I talk to you. And if I can start telling it those kinds of things and have it go, who did I talk to back then? Or what did I ask? Or can you tell me and being able to interrogate everything on my computer and in my mail and in my messages for things that I'm looking for, incredibly powerful, and only Apple can do that. But I don't think that they have to do it this year.
Yeah. Two very quick closing comments. I don't think Apple's the only one that can do that. Google can also do that very, very well.
I just wouldn't let Google do it.
Exactly, but I think most people kind of they recognize it as a trustworthy brand, even though it's not as trustworthy as Apple. The second comment that I need to make is that Apple's, like on the stone tablets carved somewhere of Apple's business plan, one of them is you got to keep them within the ecosystem, keep them under the Apple logo as many minutes out of the day as you possibly can. And the reason why this is going to be really, really important is that if you encourage them to leave the Apple ecosystem for your AI stuff, that limits their dependency either physically or practically on staying within that tent at all times. Just like there's so many services where it just doesn't matter whether you've got if you use social media, honestly, as long as you have a premium smartphone, the cameras are all within 5% of each other, and they all run the exact same apps and the exact same services. It becomes a matter of preferences of which one can run TikTok better. So I don't think Apple. I think just Apple has to make sure that AI is not something where I want to leave, instead of clicking on that little dingus that comes up next to a text field. My habit right now, and I'm not everybody, I'm just speaking for myself, unless it's the simplest thing, like taking something that's in all caps and turning it into not all caps, my instinct now is just simply tab over into my Gemini tab and then just ask Gemini to do it, because that's where my muscle memory is right now. And because it tends to actually work. I just don't want the perception that Apple can do nothing. It's okay for Apple to do nothing. It's okay for Apple to do things in AI that are not terribly consequential. I'm actually pleased by the Gurman report that we're going to see something big in a couple of years, as opposed to incremental changes, just like kicking the can down the road, adding little features to Siri, a system that is not designed to handle the sort of things that AI is going to be asked for. I'm okay with if in 2 years' time they show off a Siri that we threw out everything, we started all over again, and this is really, really great. If you used it before, you're going to love it now. If you never used it before, we apologize, and now you're going to want to use it. That's what I'm hoping for in 2 years.
And I do agree with you. I mean, I think Apple's probably spending a lot of money on it.
Of course.
I think it's billions and billions of dollars a year of this machine that's trying to figure this out. But I'm just saying, I don't think it needs to happen in the next year or two. I think when someone said as early as 2027, I was like, they have that kind of time. And I think when you talk about social media, that's a perfect example. Apple failed at that completely. We all remember Ping, right? Or some of us try to forget, but I'm sure Apple tried to forget. But they failed horribly on this platform. But all these social platforms have come out, and Apple has not tried again. But they are still a hefty piece of those social networks, because they're creating their movies on it. We're browsing on it. We're doing all these other things on it. So they didn't have to actually dip into that to that didn't undermine their ability to do what they do. I do think that, again, I think that they are the most consequential player potentially for AI, because they have so much of our information and we're willing to give it to them. And I think that's a so they could do more with it than anyone else, but I do think it's going to take a lot longer, and I think they have that lot longer to spend on it.
Gurman says that the problem is that there are Siri has two brains. That the current iOS 18 version has one that operates with the legacy Siri commands, timers, making calls. The other doing the AI thing. He says the latter capability will be able to tap user data, already is used to not get confused when people change their request mid-command. But he says because they had to rush, and I think this is key, to get it out as part of iOS 18, they didn't have time to meld the two systems together. It's almost left brain, right brain. And that means the software didn't work as smoothly as it could. They want to do that next year for iOS 19. Expect a introduction in WWDC in June, with a launch by spring 2026 as 19.4. Now, I'm not sure how well sourced this is. You have to parse Gurman's stuff, as Jason Snell has taught us. Some of it's opinion, some of it's from sources. So it's not clear if this is just what he's thinking, although he does say people within Apple's AI division now believe that a true modernized conversational version of Siri won't reach customers until iOS 20 at best in 2027. And I think that's the kind of most important revelation. And that one does seem sourced.
There's precedent there. That is the issue and the hurdle that Amazon initially faced in introducing its upcoming version. It's why it's reported that that's where a lot of the delays have taken place, because Amazon had this long-going, long-lasting sort of method of responding to requests, trying to merge that with a new way of doing things. And
by the way, it's not even clear that they were able to do that.
Exactly. We don't know that yet. Exactly.
We'll see. Right? They were having a lot of trouble with it.
Yep. And so I wouldn't be surprised to hear that this is the same issue of what do I kick it over to the other version of doing things? Is this something that I can answer without needing to bring in the generative AI sort of LLM magic, or what do we do? And that leads to issues down the road where one might actually give you the weather that you're asking, and then the news system might make up weather because of how it can get kind of messy there.
People involved, again with Gurman, people involved in AI, Apple's AI work say this is more cause for concern. Its foundational and large language models, the basis for its homegrown AI features, are reaching their limits. There have also been problems with rivals poaching talent and what they deem to be ineffective leadership. This sounds like this is also sourced from people inside of Apple. They're also having trouble getting enough chips. There's a huge competition for these NVIDIA chips. Remember Elon Musk bought 100,000 and is going to 200,000 H100 NVIDIA cards to do Grok's training. It's hard to get these. He says that's probably one reason the company is ramping up production of its own AI servers. Actually, I wanted to address this because one of the things I've heard, and maybe even believe to be true, is that, and maybe Alex, you can comment on this, NVIDIA has its own language to control its GPUs called CUDA, and it's proprietary. And it's one of the reasons NVIDIA has kind of a lock on the AI industry right now. In fact, that was one of the things the Chinese folks at DeepSeek did, is write a low-level machine language CUDA replacement so that they could use the less capable NVIDIA chips that they were able to get in China. I don't know if that's true, by the way. That's just their story. Why?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely very
powerful. And I've also heard from a lot of people that the Apple Silicon would be superb for AI. It has the NPUs. It has access to huge amounts of memory, more in many cases than even much more expensive NVIDIA GPUs. But lacking CUDA is a disadvantage. Maybe Apple should be working on a CUDA replacement, just as it worked on Metal to replace DirectX. What do you think?
Well, I think as you look at their servers, it wouldn't be surprising for Apple to build what they needed. Both the advantage that they have now is that they're manufacturing their own hardware and their own OSs and their own libraries and their own. There's not any reason why Apple couldn't, look at what makes CUDA special, so to speak, and look at how they might, owning all the hardware and the software in the same way that NVIDIA does. How do they build something that would allow them to scale?
They built Metal to compete with, actually, I said DirectX, OpenCL.
Right, and Metal.
Could they do something for? Could you think? How doable is that? I don't know the details.
Well, I think anything's doable with money, and Apple has a lot of it. And so I think that there's, they have some time, and they have a lot of money, and they're pretty smart at what they do. And so I think that it would be, I think saying that they couldn't make that turn would be a dangerous thing to guess on.
It's also would make these things like this Mac Mini and this Mac Studio and the Mac Pro incredible home AI machines.
People are already doing that now. They're starting to stack these little Mac M4s up, these little M4 Mac Minis up, and doing for their local AI solutions, which
they're hurt a little bit by the lack of NVIDIA GPUs, as Apple has been for a long, long time. It would be so great if they had that capability.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Apple wasn't working on that.
They've got to be, right?
Yeah. So I think that those are, but I think that is, again, these are things that Apple has probably some time on rather than trying. And then DeepSeek, I think, showed you also how quickly someone could do something that was much different. So when we think we need all of this capacity, maybe we need all of that capacity and maybe we don't, in the future, So, there's this thing where we kind of are doing all the things the hard way right now. DeepSeek, now they may have cut a bunch of corners that make theirs not as valid. But the point is that this heavy lifting for training these models, what it showed and what I think it scared everybody that's invested in this is that it could shift very quickly and suddenly be much less expensive to build these models with a lot less hardware. And Apple may be someone who figures part of that out.
That's why NVIDIA's stock tanked when DeepSeek came out.
Right, because maybe everybody's got as much as they need, and so that's the right now everybody's doing it the hard way because right now everybody has to keep up with everybody else when they're not Apple. If you're just software and the only thing that you're providing is AI, then you have to keep up with every Jones that's out there. Whereas Apple's got a bunch of other things they can think about right now, or that are paying the bills while they try to figure out what the best way to integrate this, but everybody else has to. So they're all they have to keep buying those cards as fast as NVIDIA can make them, because they don't have another solution, and they have to keep producing something that keeps them in the game. Whereas, and there could be somebody like DeepSeek or someone else that goes, hey, we can do this for 1/10 the cost or 100. That happens in our industry all the time. Like someone figures out something that's 1/10 as hard as it was a year ago, and we call that disruption.
Untoward Media, who's watching on YouTube, points out that AMD did exactly that with a language called Zeluda, a drop-in replacement for CUDA on AMD processors. Zeluda, now I don't know anything about this, but it claims to run unmodified CUDA applications using non-NVIDIA GPUs with near-native performance. So, hey, if they could do it, I imagine Apple could do it too, right?
And part of the challenge is just the human resources. I mean, I know right now but being able to have people who understand how to engineer that. So There's a lot of understanding of how to use CUDA to do this one problem. And so if you build a new operating system or a new process to do that, then you have to bring potentially thousands or hundreds of thousands of people up to speed, at least until the AI gets good at it, and then it happens faster.
Yeah. Right. But just keep in mind that Apple has a simpler problem to solve. They really just have to add AI features or make room for external AI features on their hardware devices, which is where they're making their money. Whereas Google, Microsoft, Amazon, they're trying to they're consumers. You are a great target. They love to have consumers. However, what they want is industry to be using their servers, their compute power to power their own AI research, their own AI apps. So Google has a very, 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 very deep stack that they're pursuing right now. So it's a difficult thing to compare the two. Apple has certainly got it easier because, again, they just need to make their phones better. They just need to deliver the features that people are actually asking for, which, as we've been discussing for the past 10 minutes, people aren't necessarily asking for AI features right now. So they can stay afloat a lot easier than they're not in that big scrum of these 3 or 4 companies that are trying to own server-side AI compute. They're just trying to deliver features for consumers. So they can be a little bit more agile, I think.
And they may have a more immediate concern, given that the 10% additional tariffs have now gone into effect on China, 25% on Canada and Mexico. And as far as I know, there is no exemption this time for iPhones. That's one of the reasons Tim Cook has been spending a lot of time in Washington, D.C., I don't know. We'll have to see what happens because of that. That Gurman talks about that. He also talks about the iPad Air begins seeing shortages ahead of a refresh. That was Sunday. Yes, he was right. Today they came out. He also says the MacBook Air M4 is about to launch. Let's see. He also said something a little bit concerning about the next MacBook Pros. Let me see if I can. Maybe he didn't say it. Maybe he tweeted this. Something about there not being an M3 Ultra or an M4 Ultra in the studios. Right?
Yeah, in the studio. That it would get the
M3
M4
Ultra
Max, but the M3 Ultra to differentiate it from the Mac Pro, which is supposed to be announced at some point. Not Mac Pro, but Mac Pro.
Mac Pro. That could be, of course, why a marketing thing, or it could be that TSMC is having trouble with yields.
Yeah.
And they can't get the chips. Unclear. I think Apple would want the studios to be as good as they could be. That has become, for many, the Mac Pro, right?
Particularly with the amount of RAM you can put into those things.
Yeah.
It's like those are like AI cluster almost grade machines.
Yeah.
That's 4, right? 4 side by side with the Ultra, or in a square. So yeah, I could see how yield could be an issue there.
I mean, a lot of us are, when we saw what's happening with the M4s, are dying to see what happens with the studio. And again, the studio and the Pro is just, you need all these other, you need cards and connections. What Apple's done well, I think, there is made it clear that the Pro is pretty much the same as the Studio as far as performance goes. It's just simply you need more lanes of USB-C or Thunderbolt. You need be able to put cards in. You need those types of
That's
things.
a very specialized small market, right?
It is, but it's a market I don't think Apple wants to seed because it's an influential market. And I think that what happens is that it's kind of like that F1 version. If you don't have it, there's people like me that, I was growing to feel when the trash cans were as high as it went.
That was bad. Yeah.
I really started feeling like I'm going to have to move over to PCs for a bunch of the stuff that I'm doing. And you don't want to, that affects all the down chain. From there, people start doing that. When you talk about that ecosystem that we talked about before, you can't have the high end. And there's still some high end stuff that some of us will move to a PC for because there's just things we can't put 4 NVIDIA cards into one Mac, right? Those are the kind of solves that we can't do. But for the most part, for 99% of the folks out there, the Mac Pro is enough as a high end to solve the problem.
Frankly, for many of us, the Mac Mini is it's pretty good.
I mean,
I'm extremely happy with my Mini. Yeah,
I might have to buy a lot of Mac Mini, the little ones, and so I bought the cheapest one I could get, the little, whatever the $599 version of it is, and I'm having a hard time getting it to get over 40-50% CPU
utilization.
Usage. Yeah, it's
super
just
good.
So fast.
It's exciting. Yeah. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Andy Ihnatko, Alex Lindsay, and filling in for Jason Snell, Micah Sargent. More to come in just a bit. But first, a word from our sponsor for this segment of MacBreak Weekly, Zscaler, the leader in cloud security. Enterprises over the years have spent billions of dollars on security systems that just aren't working anymore. I'm talking about firewalls, the perimeter defenses, right? And then, of course, VPNs, so employees can get through the firewall and get to work. Has it fixed, our security problems? No, you just have to listen to Security Now to know that this is not getting better. Breaches continue to rise. 18% year-over-year increase in ransomware attacks. Expect, by the way, 2025 to be the worst year ever for ransomware because we've basically shut down our fight against Russian ransomware gangs. This is going to be a bad year. Last year, $75 million record ransomware payout. I think you could double or triple that this year. It's time to rethink our security. Traditional security tools expand your attack surface with public-facing IPs, and those ransomware gangs are very effective, especially because they're now using AI tools to craft spear phishing attacks, malware attacks. This is a scary world. And of course, once they get into the network, if all you have is perimeter defenses, they can walk around and look at everything. They can search for embarrassing things to exfiltrate, like your customer information, your emails. And those VPNs struggle to inspect encrypted traffic at scale. So all they do is they encrypt it, they send it out, exfiltrate it. Now you've got 2 problems, ransomware and blackmail. The fact is, hackers exploit traditional security infrastructures using AI to outpace your defenses. We've got to start rethinking security. We can't let these guys win. They're innovating. They're exploiting your defenses. That's why you need Zscaler, Zero Trust plus AI. Zero Trust is an incredible solution because it doesn't assume that once you're in the network, you should be able to do anything. It eliminates lateral movement. Users are only allowed to connect to specific apps, the apps you authorize. They don't get to access the entire network. Zscaler continuously verifies every request based on identity and context, and it hides your attack surface. No more apps and IPs visible to the public network. Plus, you can simplify security management with Zscaler's AI-powered automation. And by the way, Zscaler is excellent at analyzing what's going on out there. They analyze over 500 billion daily transactions, most of which are completely legit, but they use AI to find the malware, the threats hiding in that haystack. It's really simple. Hackers cannot attack what they cannot see. Protect your organization with Zscaler Zero Trust plus AI. Learn more at zscaler.com/security. And while you're at the website, take a look at some of I was just looking at the video we're sending out. Some of the people who use Zscaler. Think about why they've turned to Zero Trust. Zscaler, because it works. Zscaler.com/security. We thank Zscaler for supporting MacBreak Weekly. Glad to have them on the show. iPhone 16e teardown on iFixit. They say, and they're not alone in this, never before has skipping an upgrade made more sense. Part of the reason is you could still buy older iPhones for less, right? And the 14, there's nothing wrong with it. But they also say for the first time ever, Apple's released a repair procedure for the charging port. And that may be because of the EU.
Yeah.
Or right to repair laws. Now, every state in the union has a right to repair law in process. Apple has backed off on blocking parts with software, which is very good news. And of course, iFixit has been on the front lines of this fight. Mm-hmm. They say, we're happy to report we didn't see any part pairing issues when we swapped logic boards, at least with OEM parts. Repair Assistant worked as advertised. I don't know if they fixed the problems you had, Micah, with getting the equipment.
Oof, that was a nightmare.
But Micah got the equipment before he got the parts.
Yeah.
And then he had to return the equipment. And the same day that he returned the equipment, the parts arrived.
Yeah, which because of the way that it works, you basically put a whole bunch of money on your card, and then if you don't return the tools in time, then they charge you the full thing.
Just renting them.
We have to give them back, or else we're going to get charged. But we tried to call them and say, "Look, this is what we're trying to do." No, they wouldn't have it, so we had to send it all back.
It's a separate group doing the parts, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you never did get that repair done.
We did not get to do the repair in person, unfortunately. That was didn't work out.
So he said. So they go on at iFix. If you're on an old SE model, should you upgrade? Probably not. We still say even after getting into the phone's guts, a refurbished phone will get you more bang for your buck. I think that's kind of the bottom line. But if you want Apple Intelligence or something, with the A18 in it, this seems like it's just, does anybody need?
And
the A18?
The camera's a lot nicer.
Yeah.
I just want to keep coming back to the 48 megapixel camera on that. So if you want a better camera for that isn't very expensive, I think that's the only reason to refurbish. The cameras jump in the last couple of years, the cameras jumped pretty dramatically, and you get used to shooting 48 megapixel images, and it's hard to give up.
The electrically released adhesive that Apple shipped first for the iPhone 16 is now in the 16e, which is good. Makes it a lot easier to release the glue. What else? No MagSafe. They don't like that. But you still have Qi chargings. It's just slower. If you charge overnight, I don't think you'll notice a difference. And it's healthier for the battery to charge at a lower wattage. Yes.
Yeah. Actually, we had some interesting two different pieces of news on the charging on the 16e. Gruber, in his review, said he talked to Apple about this question, and their reply to him on why the charging is so weak compared to the main iPhone 16 and why MagSafe isn't there is because they feel as though the consumer that they have in mind for this phone doesn't care about wireless charging at all and are more likely to just plug in a cable.
Interesting.
I don't know if this is accurate or not, but that's what they went on the record with Gruber with. That could be absolutely the case. Again, as John, I have to agree with what John said in his review, which is that I'm sure that Apple knows its market for this phone better than I do. But I also remember back when that big, really bad, fatal redesign of the MacBook Pro came out. And Apple was saying, yes, the reason why we removed the SD card slot is that we feel that professional photographers are using Wi-Fi to connect their.
No.
So maybe they're saving face.
No.
And also, Macworld had a piece in which they said that actually you can use MagSafe, but it's like super, super, super weak. Like things will cling to it in a sort of like desultory sort of
it's limp
way.
It's a limp MagSafe.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So the reason why MagSafe is what it is and it allows for more efficient charging, I mean, we know that by even slightly having your charger misaligned, it is not sending it's not sending it exactly as it should. So that does result in more heat, which means that they end up dropping how much power they're pushing through so that they don't overheat it. But the problem is, without that MagSafe in place to help you align the coil, you are still getting more heat than you might otherwise get.
Remember those days of the old days before MagSafe, and if you didn't get it on just right and there was no way of knowing, it would and plus there's a lot of, this is the Insta360 gimbal, a lot of devices that rely on MagSafe for attachment, right?
Yep, you'll need a case or some other thing you stick to the back to basically make it MagSafe.
But
for
Apple
the sake
knows
of
its
accessories.
customer base, so maybe they
do.
know. I don't know. Do you charge wirelessly, Micah?
I do everything now, and I'm on record as being a wireless charging skeptic, mostly because I was being a pedant who didn't like the idea of calling something wireless.
It's a waste of battery and juice, and it's terrible.
Well, I just didn't. I mean, because there's still a wire connected to the part that charges, so that it was dumb.
Oh, no, it's not. No, okay, Micah.
Right, it was dumb.
Silly.
But
yes.
I'm very much a wireless charging. I love it now, and I love being able to just walk.
I have. In fact, I bought it for the whole family. These Anker all-in-one chargers for the phone, the AirPod, and the watch, and they fold up. Whoops, the page is missing. Well, okay, they fold up, which is really nice for traveling. So that I can carry these around with me. Let's see if the page is still missing. I clicked again. Oh, well, I hope they still sell them. So I do wireless charging still. Andy, you wireless charge your Google device?
Not really, only because I just don't have enough wireless charging stands. And the thing is, I recharge my phone infrequently enough that it's kind of okay for me just to remember to plug it in.
Oh, wait a minute, recharge infrequently enough. You mean you don't charge it every night?
Oh no, I recharge it every night. It's just that, like, if I were using my phone, like hammering it every single day to the extent where by the end of the day I might need to top it up to get stuff done.
Yeah.
Then I would have I would have wireless charging stands like next to the sofa, next to my desk, next to things like that.
Right.
As it is with my last phone, it lasts long enough that it's no problem for me to say, okay, I got 18% or 12% battery left. At the end of the day, now it's time I'm going to plug it in. And also the disadvantages of leaving the phone plugged in and charging overnight are now also kind of mitigated because of features that basically say, oh, you're overnight charging. Okay, so I'm not going to try to charge it in 1 hour. I'm going to give it a nice, slow, gentle 6-hour charge.
Yeah. Alex, wireless or wired?
Both. My overnight charge, the way I just plug it in. Then I go to sleep. So that's 99% of what I need.
Isn't that funny?
And then when I drive, I'm using the Peak Design, mount that has a USB-C. So anytime I'm driving, I'm recharging it by snapping it onto that.
Actually, my car has a Qi charging pad in it that I just put the phone on and it charges it.
Nice.
I wish it had MagSafe, but I guess that would be too.
I feel like it's just kind of like a little bonus. Like it sits right where it's the Peak Design that clamps onto your vent, so it just kind of sits. It sits right on the outside, and that's what I'm using most of the time for what I need the phone for. And so it's in the right place, at least on my car. And it happens to charge while it's doing that, and so that's good. But I very rarely run out of battery in a single day. So if I charge every night when I go to bed, I very rarely hit the bottom, mostly because I have to say, I don't have a lot of Facebook apps on my phone. I do use Facebook. I use it on my desktop. I just don't have it on my phone. And it's primarily because I felt that it was burning up as soon as I took them off, suddenly my phone lasted like 30-40% longer. And so I just decided, well, I'm not going to go back.
Yeah, I'm very judicious about background app updates on any apps. You have to be blessed by me before I allow you to background app update.
Yeah.
So there aren't many that have that.
Well, Apple, I mean, that's not, I don't think it's, obviously Apple doesn't think it's
it's not a deal breaker.
A deal breaker. That's the word I was like. It's a deal breaker, ladies. iFixit does, but Apple apparently doesn't. What else did they learn? Oh, they talked a little bit about the C1 modem. I still haven't seen any benchmarks comparing the C1 modem in the 16E to the Qualcomm modem. Maybe because it's as good, I don't know.
There was one, I wish I would have remembered. There was one that did, and I think it was basically the same as what I remember reading. There just really wasn't that much of a difference. The trade-offs ended up being in other places, and so it was just kind of like, okay, it's fine. Yeah, it doesn't stand out.
Yeah, Mac Rumors did a roundup of reviews focusing on the C1 modem, and basically they highlighted The Verge, Tom's Guide, and a couple others that there doesn't seem to be a difference, not much difference between the C1 and the X71. Yeah.
Okay. One thing iFixit does like the C1 for is it draws less battery, so you get better battery life because of that. And they point out there is now an official charging port repair manual. Yeah, which I think is the first time. That is one of the things that breaks most often, I think, on phones.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
they said it's not for the faint of heart, though. So that was interesting to hear iFixit say.
If they say that, it means don't.
Yeah,
to be honest,
you probably should just leave it alone.
I'd say don't to most of what they say. So if they say don't, I'm definitely not gonna. I'm like, let's rip
not
that
for the.
out.
Are you faint of heart, Alex?
I don't try to repair Apple devices. I just don't. I take it back to Apple. I tried, and I don't say that as someone who never tried to fix Apple devices. I was obsessed with trying to fix my own devices, and just decided even when they worked, they were never quite the same. Like there was just the level of, and you pull pieces out of it, and you go, oh, I'm never going to get this back the way it was. And it was always like this little. It was always like this little movement. Because everything's so tightly wound, and this is over a decade ago that I was doing this, and there was some point where I had a laptop that I needed, and I had to go buy another one because I had broken this one trying to update the RAM or something, and I was like, I'm never doing this again. And that was the end of it. I was like, from now on, I'll take it to Apple and just have them fix it, or I'll just
I so totally agree. Like there are only a few things I really miss about having a Pixel phone instead of an iPhone, and that is like I can decide where do I want to go to lunch while having professionals fix my phone for me within the hour. And there are 3 Apple stores that I can go to, which I will choose between based on, I could really go for some Korean bibimbap right now.
Okay,
so I'll go to the one in Cambridge. And now that like Google is starting to open up there, so they open up a Google store in Boston. So now fortunately I haven't had to try it yet, but it's like, do not diminish the ability to just go someplace nearby and have someone fix something for you. Like I don't care how easy the instructions are for replacing a battery. If I can pay somebody $20 extra over the cost of parts to simply replace the battery in my device, that's $20 of stress that I will forego my Friday pizza to lose that kind of stress.
And on the other side of that, I take really good care of my hardware. Like, so the other side of that has become, this phone, I drop this phone once a day, probably. Like it falls off of something, I set it somewhere or whatever. It has 0 because it's sitting inside of a case. Yep. And it's got a protective piece on the front. And when I pull it out of all of that stuff, it looks like when I bought it at the store. And I bought a new, for Michael Krasny's show for Gray Matter, I bought a laptop for him to use. We bought, not he. Anyway, long story. We bought a laptop that, a MacBook Pro, so that we have a good mic if we needed to use it inside. We've got the camera that can be used and all these other things, and it can be taken over from remotely. And I didn't take it out of the box until the case arrived. Like I've learned that's when you do it, is you don't open it up and start playing with it and getting even fingerprints on it until the case arrives, and then you take it carefully out of the box, you put it in the case, and then you start doing whatever you're going to do to it after that. But that's how I've kind of gotten to, we spend a lot of money on these devices, and it doesn't take very much to protect them for a very long time.
We call that the right to not repair.
Can I read this paragraph really quick? It's super quick. It says, so this is for repairing the USB. Before you can even start the repair of that charging port, you've got to remove the back glass, the selfie camera, the top earpiece speaker, the battery, the Taptic engine, the bottom speaker, the main microphone, and the SIM assembly. Only at that point can you actually do the port replacement.
And there is some soldering involved, is that right? Or soldering, as you might say. And
I would never say that because I'm not a weirdo. No, I think that they
No
just wanted to
soldering
show
involved. Okay.
why they did some hot wiring stuff in it. Yeah.
No, all that notwithstanding, iFixit gives a pretty respectable 7 out of 10 repairability score, which ranks it with the rest of the 16 lineup. That is pending the expected release of spare parts, which are, at least as of the time of their story, not yet available. 7's pretty good. It's a huge improvement over older iPhones, I have to say.
Yeah.
A lot better. So Apple's making good progress there. Yeah. Well done. Well done, Apple.
They also point out that now that it doesn't have the home button, that's another area of failure, another area of ingress that no longer exists. So it's
and the home button,
review.
because it was Touch ID, was one of the reasons it had to do parts pairing with the screen. And it was, that was a bit of a nightmare. So yeah, I'm glad that's over. Well, it was a sad day last week when I learned that after 2 decades, Microsoft is shutting down Skype.
Who will we curse?
Well, I have mixed feelings about this. We got off Skype, thanks to you, Alex, and Andy Carluccio, and went to Zoom right around 2020, right around the pandemic.
Yeah.
But Skype, until then, was our choice, video call of choice, and we had Skypeosaurus. Remember, Colleen built Skypeosaurus, and Twit would not exist if Skype hadn't existed.
Yeah,
we used it right up until 2020. Early 2020 is when I was using Skype for those things. I at one point owned 6 of the Skype TX boxes. Those are 4-channel, 4-channel Skype TX boxes. I had 6 of those, and we used them for many, many, many events and lots of people. We'd wire them all in, and we ran them into these big systems and everything else. And they were, it worked. The problem really is that Microsoft, first of all, never invested in it, and when they did, they constantly were fiddling with it in ways that made it worse. When they bought it, the video quality was higher than anything is now, even with Zoom.
Even better than Zoom.
Now, the creature comforts of Zoom ISO and a lot of other things that Liminal brought with them is makes Zoom a better solution than Skype ever was. But the video
you don't have to build a Skypeosaurus anymore and have a Skype
the
TX box to have separate channels.
But what Skype would do is it would go, I see how much bandwidth you have. I'm going to use half of it. And it would just
well, because it was a peer-to-peer. Remember that the founders of Skype, Frias and Zenstrom, came from a peer-to-peer music sharing service, and they used that technology to do the video calling. So it was peer-to-peer. Microsoft didn't like that.
Yeah,
they thought that was maybe a liability, so they went to a central server model, and it went right downhill after that.
And the problem is that they brought in the death of all things, which is the Microsoft login. Like the Microsoft login is so complicated.
I remember that.
And you get it in, and it's and so then you end up with all these permissions errors, and you end up in these cycles. I still end up in those cycles, and so all of that. It was just this slow death. They went in. I don't know what they actually pulled out of it as far for Teams, because obviously nothing good. Because Teams,
they say that the core. No, they say the core technology in Teams is going to be the Skype technology.
Unfortunately,
but that's what they're moving you to. Come, when this is all shut down, come May. They say, don't worry, you can use Teams. But I don't know anybody who loves Teams.
No, I mean, Teams is good because it's part of an ecosystem that you're forced to use at work. So I mean, that's what Teams is for, right? The only time you see people using Teams is because their company has told them they have to use Teams, and it's all part of their 365. So Teams is part of the ecosystem, which they remind you of every time you open it. Teams is part of an ecosystem, and it's powerful in the sense that you can a business can do lots of jobs inside of Teams, but I don't know I've never seen a personal person use Teams as their choice of video conferencing. That would be, and I think that, and Teams, of course, while they say they're 1080p, they're really only 1080p for the first 2 people. And then as soon as you go to the third person, it goes to 720, and then you're never going to get above 720. Yeah. And now I believe Zoom has been, we've seen it rolling out. It's not, I don't think it's completely out, but if you just buy a singular business license, which I think is like $20 a month or something like that, you get 1080p.
Yep. That's why we bought it. It's for 1080p, right?
And so for anybody that cares about video quality,
look how good Alex looks. He is on Zoom.
Yeah, I was up all night working on a show that we were backhauling something from a couple of different countries over last night, and I kept on looking at it. We had like handheld, I mean, we had steady cams and everything else all being backhauled over Zoom. And I was like, I cannot believe I'm doing this over Zoom. Like, I just can't believe we're bringing the, people walking through buildings and, all this other stuff. It was incredible.
Yeah, truly amazing. So, well, I'm sad because, we're 20 years old. It was in 2005 when I realized, even though all of our hosts are in different locations, somebody called the radio show. So this was when I was doing a call-in radio show, and all the calls were by phone. And somebody in 2004, I think, maybe 2005, called, and I said, "You sound amazing. You sound like you're in the room with me." He said, "Yeah, I'm using Skype," because Skype had Skype out. Remember,
that's
Skype in and Skype out that let you call phone numbers. And I said, that was like, for me, a light came on. I said, I could use this to podcast, and now I can get Kevin Rose in Los Angeles and Patrick Norton under his car and all of these, these people.
Until then, unless you had an ISDN connection,
right.
The problem with phones was that the phone company literally adds noise to the phone call so that it's there. So when you pick it up, that there's this subconscious thing that they do. They add just a little bit of noise so that you, because if you don't, people will feel like it's not, and it's funny, you won't notice that it's there, but you'll notice if it's missing. Suddenly feel like when you are on FaceTime or on something else or Zoom that doesn't do that, you suddenly hear just silence and not in a way that you would hear with phone. So they add just a little bit of noise, and then we'd have to filter all that noise out every time we did something else. And so Skype was one of the first ones that allowed us to have a pure signal that just sounded great. And then the video was, again, we would see
but
it
okay.
No, the video. Well, when it picked up speed, it got to a point where it would do 20 megs a second, which we
it would use all the bandwidth.
It would use that. Now you had to be very careful about what when you turn Skype on. What else are you doing? And it would not gracefully handle you suddenly uploading a bunch of files while you're on Skype. Things would start to freeze up.
We had to tell people, turn off your mail client, because they'd be on the show, and their mail client would go out and get in the mail, and the whole thing would just fall apart
because Skype was using all that. I thought Skype was like, I thought you weren't using this. I was using it, and now I have to stop. And so I have to figure this all out. It's gonna take me a second to sort this out because you just screwed everything up. So I'm
getting a little PTSD from the days when we really were fighting with people over. That's why Burke remembers.
We're still talking about Wi-Fi. I mean, it just so Wi-Fi still doesn't work. By the way, if you're listening to this as public service announcement, Wi-Fi stinks when you're on video conferencing, and you should not use it.
Always, everybody's wired when we get them on the shows as far as we can. Some people can't, but when we can. So Microsoft said your log information for Skype will be used on Teams free tier in the coming days. The shutdown will happen for sure for fully in May.
If you're using a free tier of Teams, what are you thinking? Like, if you're not a company using Teams, like stop. Like, just go to Zoom. Like,
Zoom is amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's so, and again, it's because of people like Andy that are there, that there's actually folks that are focused on quality and the feature sets around it, especially as broadcasters. There's nothing close.
Yeah. Well, you do see some companies, I think CNN uses WebEx. Probably
I'm sure WebEx
Cisco,
paid a lot of money for that.
Apple's a pretty big WebEx.
They have a little bug on there.
Yeah,
but really, that has transformed the cable news business as well. But everybody's on Zoom or something equivalent now.
Yeah,
they don't have to go to a satellite bureau anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the problem really is that they don't, because you're an 8-minute hit that they're never going to see again.
That much. Right.
They always tell people, when we work with people, when we bring them into, again, like Michael Krasny show, and I'm sure you have this a little bit, people tell you, I do this all the time. And then you're screwed. You're just totally screwed.
We got a guy, I won't name names, he's going to be on one of our shows soon, who says, oh no, I do this all the time. I don't need to do a Zoom check. We always do Zoom checks with guests ahead of time.
And it's always like some janky mic and Wi-Fi.
I'm using my AirPods. That's okay, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's, so that democratization hasn't, fixed a lot of those things. And what's funny is a lot of people would fix it when we tell them, like, hey, let's send a mic to you, or let's make this work, or let's do whatever. They're like, why didn't anyone tell me this? I would have bought it. I would have bought all these things if someone told me. They don't know the difference. And but it is kind of a so that's been unfortunate. But to your point, it's revolutionized it. And I think that there's some companies, like, for instance, big corporations that use WebEx. I think that that's a lot of it has to do with it's so built into every conference room and there's a certain inertia there. It has little to do with what Zoom can do versus it, because Zoom is clearly better than WebEx. Now, I will say that WebEx over the time when COVID started to now has probably improved more than any other virtual conferencing system out there. Even Zoom, it's gotten better than Zoom was just ahead of it, but it's taken more ground than anybody else. So it's definitely came from being a complete joke to reasonable.
Apple made a mistake, a boo-boo, not making FaceTime be cross-platform?
No, I think that
a lot of people use FaceTime, and if we were all on Apple devices, that would be a good choice.
Even if we were all on Apple devices, I wouldn't use FaceTime. FaceTime is Zoom? Absolutely. Well, I mean, so here's the deal. FaceTime. If I'm going to jump on the number one thing you do when you want to jump on a video with somebody else that's got an iPhone or some other whatever is FaceTime, because it's easy. It always works. Yeah. You can just talk to them. You don't have to have any kind of whatever.
Well, and Apple blurs the definition too, because it will often make phone calls, both audio and video, with FaceTime. When you think you're making a phone call,
when I'm overseas, a lot of times I'm using FaceTime to call somebody, FaceTime audio, because I got Wi-Fi. I just don't have a phone number, or I don't want to use the phone number there I don't want to pay minutes or whatever it is. And it sounds a lot better. It's a better contribution. It looks and sounds great. And by the way, the FaceTime in the Vision Pro is, I just did a meeting. I had a meeting with two other people, and they showed up with Vision Pros, and I was like, oh, I better get my Vision Pro out just to see how this goes. Because I'd never been in a meeting, like a meeting, like not like oh, let's try this, but it was a meeting. And I put it on, and it gets rid of the windows, and you're just kind of like these ghosts are sitting there talking to you. And within 10 minutes, it was just like someone was there, like someone was in the room with me. So Apple, I think they can't innovate that way if they're spending half of their time trying to figure out how to get it to work on other operating systems. And that's the big problem. As someone who I've worked with teams to develop apps that are Apple only, especially in the audio video world. And I've worked with ones where we have to integrate with Windows and Android. And I can tell you that the Windows and Android versions, it's not just that they weren't as good as the Apple apps that we built. And again, it's not for everything, but when it comes to audio and video, it's not that they weren't good enough. The Apple product got worse because we are sitting there trying to figure out how to add a feature that can go to the Apple product and to Windows and Android. And Android and Windows do not invest the same amount of money in audio video tools as Apple does. And the libraries aren't there. And so when you build something that's I think that maybe some of it's competitive, but I think the biggest reason Apple doesn't make things cross-platform is that they don't want to deal with the libraries and the limitations of the other platforms. They just want they can, if they don't like what they have, they can tell the hardware guys to make it better on the next version, and they can't do that on Windows and Android.
Do we not consider it cross-platform because remember, Apple did announce you can do FaceTime from Android and from Windows. It's just via the browser. Since
I don't know if anyone's ever used that. Has anyone actually opened
I think it was you've been able to do that. Yeah, you schedule a FaceTime call, and then that lets you send a link to an Android user or a Windows user, and then they tap on it. It opens the browser, and you're part of the FaceTime call. So that's not as cross-platform as just having a FaceTime app, of course. But
admittedly, that's how I use Teams. Like I'm on Teams meetings probably 2 or 3 times a day. And I don't even use the app because the app keeps on opening weird windows that don't do anything. Yeah. And so I'm just like, I'll just use the browser.
When Apple uses the browser to do a FaceTime call on Android or Windows, is it using WebRTC?
That's a good question.
Is it using it? It must be, right? Because you don't have any software installed. It must be using. And WebRTC is not ideal, as we know, if you've used Google Meet or.
Yeah, it could.
Must be.
Yeah, I'm not seeing. I mean, I'm not surprised that Apple's not saying specifically, but it must be because it's using your system audio and the camera that's built. So
it's Chrome or Edge, so it has to be it's a Chromium. Maybe it's WebRTC. It's got to be. So they must have that's interesting. They must have a WebRTC gateway into FaceTime. They don't want to publicize that. That's for sure.
Not available for iPhone models purchased in China mainland. Just so you know.
There you go. So don't get your hopes up, kids. All right, one more break, and then get the John Ashley prepare the Vision Pro theme. We will continue with MacBreak Weekly. Andy Ihnatko. Jason Snell's not here. He's probably getting briefed. I want him to be getting briefed. But fortunately, Micah Sargent is here, always willing and ready and able to jump in. Thank you, Micah. And Alex Lindsay as well. Our show today brought to you by those good folks at Melissa, old friends. I had a great conversation with Melissa. They're doing some really interesting stuff. But Melissa started in 1985 as the trusted data quality expert. But what I love about this company is it hasn't rested on its laurels. It is constantly improving and constantly adding new features that make it even more valuable to every business. Melissa recently, for instance, made its debut in the Stripe app marketplace. Okay, this is one of many integrations. They have Salesforce and so forth. But let me just, as an example, tell you what they've done with Stripe. Stripe customers now can access the same, and a lot of people use Stripe, pretty much everybody. I see it everywhere now. They can access the same data quality services that those big global enterprises have been using for years. Key features of Melissa's Stripe integration include, of course, address validation. That's what Melissa has become known for. The app validates global addresses at both customer and invoice levels within Stripe. Now, that's great because customers often fumble finger their phone number or their address. And if you're trying to deliver something to them or call them or email them and they entered it wrong, it kind of becomes your fault, even though they did it wrong. So Stripe now with Melissa built in will fix it. They also do that at invoices, so you don't send an invoice to the wrong address. Auto completion capabilities reduce not only the number of keystrokes required, so you'll appreciate that. Customers also appreciate that. And it makes sure that only valid addresses enter your database. As a Stripe user, you can easily configure the Melissa app with just a few steps. And of course, support for both customer account and invoice level validation is built in. The app offers smooth management of API keys and subscriptions, facilitating transitions from free to paid services. So I guess try the free ones. It'll be easy to move to paid. And they give comprehensive support, of course. Users have direct access to Melissa experts, ensuring high quality service and support. That's just one of many, many integrations that allow you to enhance operational efficiency, boost customer satisfaction, and maintain overall financial health. Every forward-thinking business wants that, right? And if you rely on Stripe, good news, it's available to you now. But that's just one of many new tools at Melissa. They've added a considerable amount of AI. In fact, I had a great conversation with a data scientist at Melissa a couple of weeks ago. I was so impressed with what Melissa can do in healthcare, in financial KYC compliance and the risk of fraud, the government and public sector and transportation, logistics, e-commerce. Melissa's services understand compliance like no other. Of course, secure encryption for all file transfers, an information security ecosystem built on the ISO 27001 framework. They adhere to GDPR policies, SOC 2 compliance. So, you're always compliant with Melissa. You always can feel safe and secure. Get started today with 1,000 records cleaned for free. Melissa.com/twit. On-prem, as a service, or even with the API, you will be very impressed. And of course, integrated into all your favorite platforms. Melissa.com/twit. It really is a very impressive product and platform and a very forward-thinking company. I love that, Thank you, Melissa, for supporting MacBreak Weekly. And now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it's time for the Vision Pro segment.
What do you see? What do you know? It's time to talk the Vision Pro.
Micah, you and I are just going to have to sit back on this. Well, you owned a Vision Pro for 3 weeks.
I was tortured by a Vision Pro for 3 weeks is what it was.
Quickly returned it,
Yes.
as we asked you to do, because we didn't want to
I felt
pay
like
for
I
it.
was, what is that movie? Not Orange Theory.
Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork
You were
Orange.
Malcolm McDowell,
Yes.
forced to see the horrific videos.
Oh, boy.
But it's been very active, actually, with Vision Pro in the last few days.
Yeah, new apps.
And
The introduction.
Is there any news of Apple taking the Kendrick Lamar halftime show and That would be so great as a Vision Pro experience.
You know, I think that it'll be interesting to see what they release there. It does sound like they're talking about, well, and we're going to see some more concerts that are in the Vision Pro. I think that they're promoting a U2
Bono Stories of Surrender.
Yeah, so I mean, U2 is always like, I think that they're the first people call and go, we'd like to try something new, and they go, yes, we would like to do the new thing. So I think that
this one will be a feature, though, right? This is not a feature. 8 minutes. This is a full length, 180-degree video. Places viewers on stage with Bono at the center of his story.
Right.
Only available on Vision Pro. It is not U2, it's Bono, but I mean, of course, all of the music's going to be U2, I think.
Yeah, and I think that what I will say is that in general, I think there could be some interesting things from Kendrick Lamar, potentially in rehearsals, potentially in other things. It's really hard to do the stage. Yeah. They have to flip that stage in minutes, and then they have all these dancers running around, and you don't want to see it.
There was nowhere to put a camera where you couldn't see it without.
And the camera to be great has to be within about 15 feet of the and we didn't see any pictures of a Vision Pro there, so I don't think it's there. But it could be in rehearsals. It could be in practice. There's all kinds of things that could happen. Right now, I think that the processing still takes some time to get the full quality that they want out of it. What Apple's doing is not simple side-by-side 3D. It is a much more complicated version of it, and so I think that is why it takes a little bit more to figure it out or calculate it and to render it. So even though something happened at the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't come out for another couple of weeks or months.
The Bono thing's easy because it is actually his one-man show. So
you really want control over it. I mean, I don't know whether it'll show people or not, but really the problem is where you want to put the Vision Pro is in the way of all your best paying customers. So the thing is that
that's what it says. It says control. The story from Deadline says it places viewers on stage with Bono.
Yeah, which is where you want to be, and it could be very, very cool.
Not me. Oh, wait, sorry.
Not for 2 hours or 90 minutes. That seems like a long time, but people watch movies in Vision Pro all the time, so
it's my preferred place to watch movies.
Right. I wonder if they will have clips in this though, because those would just be flat, right?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Yeah, and people have been doing a little bit of that where you show clips and then you have to figure out a way of how you're going to display them, how you're going to present those as part of the immersive experience.
Right.
It could be mapped onto something. It could be mapped into something. It could be. There's a lot of different ways that they could approach that. So it'll be interesting to see where they take that.
Apple's done a good job with documentaries. They did that great Steve Martin multi-part documentary.
Well, they just have all the money.
Yeah,
so when you see,
Apple's not doing it. I understand.
I mean, it's like when it's easy to do documentaries when you spend all the money that was required to do it well, as opposed to some of the money that was required to do it well. So
somebody said that forget Kendrick Lamar, they should focus on Serena Williams' Crip Walk.
So late,
just behind the scenes,
just a little GIF of it, but animated, moment of it would be cool because that's what the app that Apple introduced seems to be about, as kind of smaller things that you wouldn't necessarily need to have a full featured film or anything like that, but that the company could just release little bits and bops. I'm trying to remember exactly what the
and
app
that might
is
be
called.
the case. I mean, that might be the case for a lot of the immersive stuff. I mean, I think we have this idea that we have to have everything be a long, something, really, really long to watch. Like 2.5 hours is something that was made up because that's what they were selling tickets for. And they didn't think people would buy them. But what we're seeing now is that there's a lot of companies. I mean, the 2.5 hour film or even 1.5 hour film is probably got maybe, a decade left before we just.
We didn't go see The Brutalist in the theaters because it's 3 hours and 20 minutes, and we knew we would watch it at home
and be able to stop
over a couple of days, which is exactly
wine
how we did
and
it.
Eating the popcorn, eating Amish popcorn.
I made popcorn.
That's the hard
by the
part.
way, we have reclining theater seats, so it really was like being in a theater. We watched it at home. It was great. I loved it.
And I think that's the challenge for the theatrical world is that. It makes way more sense for the streamers to be building series. It is in the immersive world. I see something that's like 16 to 20 minutes long, and I'm like, wow, this better be good. Like this is I start to worry that it's not going to be, like that's a long time to sit in an immersive experience and have it be a great experience. And I have seen those. I mean, I thought that we talked about the Prima app a couple weeks ago, and I sat and happily watched something for 20 minutes. I don't know if I would have watched that for an hour. I think and it's hard to, and the production is a lot harder.
I think it's too real. By the way, Chuck Arnold watching on YouTube says he was at the recording of the one-man show, Bono's one-man show in New York City. He says it was a couple of years ago, though.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Could they have made an immersive video a couple of years ago?
They bought NextVR, which is really the core of the technology that they're using a decade ago. Oh. So they've had,
they've had the
NextVR.
Capability.
Yeah, the hard part has been to get the resolution that they're looking for, and everything else has been, but with red cameras and with the black. Apple has the capability of taking something like a Blackmagic camera and tearing. And there's other people that are doing this. People are trying to use, like, for instance, the 12K cameras from Blackmagic because they have a higher frame rate capability. A lot of folks are doing is taking those cameras, and there's a lot of space in those cameras. It's designed to create the interface. And so they literally just rip the cameras apart, and put the sensors next to each other. And then, so there's these like Franken cameras that are there that people are using because they're really high resolution and they provide really high frame rates. And now, of course, we're excited because, by all reports, Apple is guiding Blackmagic to do that without having to tear apart true Blackmagic cameras. You can just have a Blackmagic camera that does the thing.
Get the Ursa. Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see, hopefully at NAB in a month, we'll hopefully see some cameras that'll make this a lot faster.
Apple, we talked last week, will have a spatial gallery available in the next generation of Vision Pro software. And apparently 18.4 iOS will have an iPhone app for Vision Pro.
If you have a Vision Pro, similar to the Apple Watch app, right? We can do certain things with our Vision or with our Apple Watch and look at the model number, see some of the content that's available. So if you have a Vision Pro, it basically gets activated on your phone. And then gives you the
interesting. That's very interesting. So no one else will get it. It'll only be people who have Vision Pro. Huh.
Yeah, it's used to set up personalized spatial audio as well. And then if you need to order vision correction things, if your prescription gets updated, then it also has some integrations for that.
It's needed.
Well, and one of the things that they spent a lot of time on that they really needed was guest access. How do you design the guest experience? Because it's been a disaster. Like, I just stopped showing people the headset. I was like, okay, this is enough. And so Apple spent a lot of time in the new beta making that easier, where you can not just say all or nothing with the apps. You can decide which apps are going to be there. You can very quickly look at what they're seeing on your phone. There's a lot of things there that are being improved so that you can at least show your friends what you got.
Finally, you can bank on your Vision Pro.
It's always what I wanted.
Do I have to wear that outfit to bank on my Vision Pro?
Yeah, do I have to match my sofa to bank?
ADIB spatial banking on Apple Vision Pro. Step into tomorrow.
This is
revolutionizing the way you bank. This is from the UAE, right?
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
For the person who has everything, including that.
So it's Emirati. That's why he was. Now I understand. Yeah. Interesting.
I think a lot of times especially there where they're not nearly as constrained financially, and there's a lot of one-upsmanship that goes on in UAE and others, where you want to have the best of the, and there are probably a very significant number of banking clients for that bank that have Vision Pros.
That's fair.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense then. So this is not something.
It's not Bank of America.
Not B of A.
Yeah. That's B of A is not going to do it anytime soon. Yeah,
many of you would use, but if you bank with ADIB, I presume you could do that worldwide. Then you could do this.
And the eye recognition will be great when you're pulling something when you're buying your next Lamborghini from your $100 million fund. Right?
Yeah.
But they missed out on all the fun stuff. Like here's all your retirement savings like piled in. Do you want to see how it would look like?
Can you convert it to gold coins?
Dollar bills.
Yes.
Do you want to see what Scrooge McDuck's money crib would look like?
Yes.
Like
They might do that. They might add that.
Projecting how much you'll have to retire given your good savings for the past 20, 30 years.
That's hysterical. And Andy, you brought this from the Vision Pro subreddit. Apple Park in 8K 180 HDR. We modded a cheap 360 camera for Vision Pro to produce this video. It's on YouTube. They're on the campus, so they must have Apple's approval to do this, right?
Or
maybe.
Or maybe they're not on the campus.
No, they're on campus because if you skip through it, you'll see Serenity is there in the video.
Oh, Serenity Caldwell. So maybe. So these are friends of Apple, obviously.
There's been some meetings down there. So
that looks like they're using that
usually you're not allowed to
360 gimbal.
Take photos or post them, but sure. If you go to some of the earlier parts, you'll see some more internal pictures. But the
is that Serenity there in the skirt?
No. I think if you go earlier to like a minute in, maybe a minute in.
Okay.
You'll probably.
Oh, look at that gimbal. Yeah, that's exactly the gimbal I was just showing you, I think.
Maybe I'm in the wrong one. Maybe it was a little before that, I think.
They had a couple of cheap-ish cameras that they put together on a gimbal and modified for 8K with custom software to basically genlock or sync all this stuff together.
Wow.
So
it obviously is with Apple approval. You can't just wander around the campus.
I imagine.
Well, that's not campus. That's the space right next to the store.
So they're going into the public area.
I don't think I saw any parts where he was in the campus. He's in that's all the trees that are right next to the store that's right next to the campus.
Yeah. Okay.
Visitor center.
And by the way, you can look at it in 2D, but I guess I can move it around. Yeah, I can look around a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, I think Serenity's at like 54 seconds. It's just it's 54. Only, it goes right past.
Very briefly.
54 seconds.
Let's pause it when we get to.
I think that's the theater.
Is that Serenity on stage there? Is that her boots?
I think it is Serenity, but I think there's a higher shot of that somewhere.
Oh, I should. Well, no, because I can scroll it. Yeah. I'm just too low. Let's see. Oh yeah, there she is. Hello, hello, says Serenity. Hello.
Hello.
All right, so that's on YouTube if you want to. Now, is there a way to watch this on your Vision Pro?
I haven't tried to do that yet. And this is using, by the way, the Candau stuff. It's one of the few companies that just keeps making VR tools. Almost everybody gave up, and I think they're going to end up winning because they just keep making tools. He's using in what's called a QCam, which
the QCam 3 Ultra
version.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun.
And the Insta360 Evo. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
But Hugh Howe is kind of like, if you're looking for someone who's doing, like, he is on the front edge of everything when it comes to whether it's for Meta or for the Apple Vision Pro. He has been doing all the videos on YouTube that are important around how to develop content for it.
Good.
It's great channel.
Nice. Is there anything else for the Vision Pro, or are we?
Well, I think we covered it.
We are complete. Well, play the closing theme then.
Now you see, now you know.
Whoops. Mixed them together. That was good. That was like a mashup.
Ooh, real DJ over there.
Apple is likely to face an antitrust fine in France for a privacy tool. Apparently, France doesn't like it that iPhone's privacy features are for third parties, but not for Apple.
Yeah, and they're defending by claiming that, which I hadn't heard them say before, that they actually hold their own tools to even higher standards than third-party tools, and that's
we're talking about app tracking transparency. That little pop-up that you get. Huh? So Apple's saying that's the first I've heard them say that.
Yeah, at least that's what it says in the Reuters story.
Okay. Because we hold ourselves to a higher standard
because they don't share the data. Like that whole app tracking,
right? Yeah, Apple keeps it to itself. That's the thing about first-party data. Google, Facebook, Apple—they're not going to share that with anybody else. They're going to sell the ads based on it.
Also, to credibly, I'm the person who's always saying that, oh well, it's appropriate for companies like Apple to defend their choices in antitrust court and things like that. In cases like this, though, it's like, you know what, they have more insight into how they can abuse people's privacy than they need those tools to control third parties, because they can't see what third parties are doing, whereas they know internally what their own policies are, and maybe it's not necessarily important. But I see their point.
Most of the third parties are taking advantage of it and are doing horrible things with it.
But I mean, of course, it doesn't seem necessarily that fishy that they're exempting themselves from from these privacy controls, because again, sometimes the people who are actually operating the phone have to know things. They have to be able to access the camera data, and maybe they don't necessarily need to have like strident third party controls over restricting their access to it.
Yeah, and I mean, they're not, generally I do feel like Apple only wants the information it needs to serve the users that they have there, in the sense that they're not trying to resell your data to somebody else, which is what everybody else wants to do. Like all that tracking data that's there is,
but Apple does sell ads, and presumably
but they don't.
What they know.
But they're not reselling our data to people who are packaging our data for everybody else. Like,
but neither is Google
jump.
or Facebook. The first party data is stuff that's your secret sauce. You don't sell that off. That's how you sell ads.
But all these little apps that are
the apps do. I agree.
They are selling all of this data. That's a big part of their business model, is selling your data to other people.
You're right. So plugging that hole is actually really good. Yeah, I agree with you. You may remember that the UK, it was said, had demanded Apple provide a backdoor to its advanced data protection. The UK doesn't say that publicly, but I think Apple kind of tacitly confirmed it when they, a week later, pulled ADP from the UK, saying, well, in that case, you can't have end-to-end encryption in the UK. And I don't know if I'd ever thought I'd say this, kudos to Tulsi Gabbard, our new U.S. Director of National Intelligence, who has written a letter to Ron Wyden and Andy Biggs in Congress saying, you know what? We have an agreement with the UK government. They call it the Cloud Act Agreement. And she said in the letter, according to initial review of the Cloud Act Agreement, a bilateral agreement between the U.S. and UK, the United Kingdom may not issue demands for data of U.S. citizens, nationals, or lawful permanent residents, nor is it authorized to demand the data of persons located inside the United States, which is what apparently the UK did. So she's challenging them. Now, we'll see if anything comes from that.
Yeah,
but apparently there was an agreement not to do what the UK's done. Now, we don't know exactly what the UK did. It was never fully revealed. It was a leak, basically, because that stuff's all done secretly. But the leak said the UK not only wanted a backdoor to UK residents, but a backdoor to everyone using ADP globally, which would be a violation.
Well, you would. It would be globally if anybody was. They'd have a backdoor to anyone talking to someone in the UK. Like if you were texting to the UK, that data would be available to them. I believe that was the whole. It wasn't that they wanted to get access to anybody not connected to a UK resident, but it still opens that door. If you're talking to anybody with a UK, it's in their cloud. It's in there. There's a, having that backdoor means that anybody you're talking to that
by virtue of me talking to Rosemary each week, Rosemary Orchard, co-host of iOS Today, who is a UK citizen, then I, an American citizen, am made liable to have my data taken by the UK government. Of note, Kevin,
I want to say, first of all, we don't know what the UK asked for because, again, that was done secretly. None of the stories I saw said anything about it being a conversation with a UK citizen. It merely said global access. And so now Apple has not really shut that down. They've just shut it down for UK citizens. So maybe you're right. Maybe we just don't know because we can't see the letter that's requesting that.
And there was some news that came across from the Financial Times while we were recording this, that Apple has actually filed an appeal to the Investigatory Powers Tribunal, to basically say we don't want to we don't believe this is a legal order. We don't believe that we should be forced to comply with it. And another detail in this report that just hit Reuters about a half hour ago, I think, was that the UK considers that that Apple is in violation of the order, even if they're not offering end-to-end encryption. That the implication being that they still want backdoor access to everybody in the world, and unless Apple gives it to them, they are in violation of that order. Simply pulling end-to-end encryption from UK users is not enough to satisfy.
That was my thought when I heard that Apple had pulled it. Is that, have you complied? Maybe not, because you only did it for UK users. It's a mess. Apple's only other choice would be to leave the UK. So Apple's in but stuck between a rock and a hard place. Yeah. Although I'm gratified that the US government is saying, hey, wait a minute. You told us, we have an agreement that you would not ask for that.
Yeah. Well, even immediately, they were getting heat from Congress people, basically saying that this is not something this is basically
and the DNI has said we're investigating this. This would be a violation.
Apparently, and the Reuters report, the Financial Times report says that Apple actually filed this complaint at the same time that they pulled end-to-end encryption, and so this has been going on for a few weeks. It's the frustration of this is that because everything is secret, we don't know what the process is. We don't necessarily know what was asked and how Apple is supposed to be complying with this. So,
yeah, this is from the Financial Times. Despite Apple pulling the service, the British government still believes the big tech companies failed to comply with its order, which can also be used to access the data of individuals outside the UK.
Yeah, that's not
even Trump has condemned it, and so has Tulsi Gabbard. They're pressuring the British government to back down. Trump compared it to the UK's demand. Compared the UK's demand to Chinese surveillance.
Yeah, I think that at some point that there may be folks in the UK that are like, hey, how about we not do this? It's like their hands are in it. There's some people there that really believe that it should happen. And there's a lot of people that are like, oh, this is going to make us look worse and worse. The longer this goes, the more it's, because I think they thought they could do it all secretly and no one would know and no one would talk about it. And suddenly now it's it's out in the open, and I think that we may find this slowly disappear because it's not. And the other thing I think that Apple is laying the groundwork for. Apple has not been adding a lot of stuff in privacy all at once, and you can tell that they know where they want to go, but they're not adding it. So they ask for people to give permission to block things. They ask for this thing, and then the next time they do it, they're like, no, we're just going to do it. And so Apple, every operating system gets a little tighter. One of the things you want to watch is Apple's building kind of VPN access, a variety of VPN tools where it basically obscures where you are from. This would allow them to leave a country without leaving the country. So because they don't know where you are. They could get to a point where they go, I don't know where you are, And so when you look at a lot of things down the road, it's not cooked yet, but it does mean that Apple could theoretically they're taking that information away from themselves, which is an interesting puzzle over time.
Let's take a little break. Get ready. We're going to do our picks of the week as we continue with MacBreak Weekly. Somebody's ringing my doorbell. I just want to know if I should run down.
Package time?
Well, he did. Oh, no, Lisa's talking to him. Good. It looks like he's wearing a green uniform, not a brown uniform. So oh, okay. He's moving on.
Trying to sell you garden tools.
I was worried it was ICE. I thought maybe I was going to be deported. I didn't know.
Because you're, what are you? You're what was it? Gardenish? What were we talking about earlier?
Oh, Luxembourgish.
Luxembourgish, that's it.
They immediately came here saying, I hear somebody's been speaking Luxembourgish. We'd like to see your papers, please. Our show this week brought to you by Stash. Saving and investing can feel impossible, but with Stash, it's not just a reality, it's easy. Stash isn't just an investing app. It's a registered investment advisor that combines automated investing with dependable financial strategies to help you reach your goals faster. They'll provide you with personalized advice on what to invest in based on your goals, Or if you just want to sit back and watch your money go to work, you can opt into their award-winning expert-managed portfolio to pick stocks for you. Stash has helped millions of Americans reach their financial goals and starts at just $3 per month. Don't let your savings sit around. Make it work harder for you. Go to get.stash.com/MacBreak to see how you can receive $25 toward your first stock purchase and to view important disclosures. That's get.stash.com/MacBreak. Paid non-client endorsement, not representative of all clients and not a guarantee. Investment advisory services offered by Stash Investments, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk. Offer is subject to T&Cs. Picks of the week time, and I know it's going to throw you off on everything, but since we were talking about Peak Design, I thought I might mention they have a new Kickstarter. Alex, you're a big Peak Design fan. I use Peak Design's
absolutely.
Cases and their whole system, and it's so great. But they've never done luggage, to my knowledge. They've done backpacks, photographers' backpacks. They now have a Kickstarter already. With 44 days to go, $3.2 million raised out of their $100,000 goal. This is called the Roller Pro for travelers, photographers, and everyone in between. And I know, Alex, you'll like the idea of having a roller bag that can so carefully protect your cameras with their XL Camera Cube.
That was great.
With 400 millimeter lenses. Look at the size of that sucker. Yeah, it does look nice. It's a hard-sided rolling luggage. They say, we didn't reinvent the wheel, but we pretty much did reinvent everything else. I like it. Yeah, it looks interesting. I just thought I'd mention it. I'm a big Peak Design fan. I have a lot of Peak Design gear. I've kicked into a few of their Kickstarters. They've done 14, which is mind-boggling. Let me see what they're charging for the $425. Ooh, it's an expensive bag. That's $175 off, they say. So this would be a $600 bag. Okay.
Yeah, it's a little pricey.
Not for me. Plus, I did, I've done a Kickstarter for a rolling luggage in the past, forgot about it, and like 3 years later, got a bag in the mail. I thought, what the hell is this? And then I remembered, oh yeah, I remember ordering this. You won't get this till August of this year, but Peak Design's reliable. They always do what they say they're going to do. So
yeah, somebody on The Verge has already reviewed it, so it's definitely
they've made it.
I've seen one in person.
What did The Verge think? Did they like it?
Liked it, but too expensive.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, you'd have to. I don't know. You have to make it out of solid gold.
Yeah.
Micah Sargent, what's your pick of the week?
So when I moved into this house we live in Portland, one of the things I noticed is walking outside of even a single room with Bluetooth connectivity or any kind of connectivity, it immediately drops. The house is very old. It's probably got metal in the walls. And so I just wanted to see what my signal looked like throughout the home. And Ubiquiti has an app called Wi-Fi Man, and Wi-Fi Man is a sort of spectrum analyzing app, and it's fine.
I've used their app, yeah.
But what they make is a little device called the Wi-Fi Man Wizard, and it is a portable spectrum analyzer. It comes with a little case that you can slide it into, and it's got MagSafe. So if you got a 16E, that you can put on the back of your phone, and then you use the app on your phone, be it iOS or Android, to do full-on spectrum analyzing. You can check the strength of your channels. You can actually use AR to map out your space physically and see how the signal is in different places. It's really
look at that. It's a MagSafe accessory. That's cool.
It's very cool. It's USB-C charging, and
you kind of need this because the iPhone doesn't give you access to all the
it doesn't give you as much exactly to be able to break apart the channels and see what the busyness is of the 2.4 gigahertz channel versus 5, what each of the rooms is providing in terms of signal strength. All of that coming together in this app has been pretty neat, and it also comes with a built-in little shortcut so you can automatically kind of open it up and see what's going on. So if you want to map out your own home be it with AR or without AR. You don't have to do that, but see what the signal is like in your home. I can fully recommend this little Wi-Fi man wizard.
That's a good idea. Is it a battery too? Will it charge my phone?
Oh no, sorry, it won't charge your phone. It has to be charged.
Oh, you got it. You have it. Oh, look at that.
Yeah. No, I bought it for this. So $99, a little pricey. It is sold out right now, so they're pretty popular.
Ubiquity stuff is great. I'm all Ubiquity.
It's solid. It's solid.
Yeah. In fact, they just offered their new Wi-Fi 7 access point. The enterprise one's cheap. It's only $149, something like that. So they've just announced that.
Oh, that's really good price. That's
I know.
That's an excellent price.
I know. It's remarkable. It's not shown here, so maybe they announced it, but they're not yet selling it. Yeah, really cool. Russell said you should just do Wi-Fi 6, and I said, okay, fine. Okay, I'll take it.
Okay, whatever you
Alex, whatever you say, really, seriously, whatever Russell says, I do. Alex Lindsay, pick of the week.
So, grain. Video grain. So I was shot something with my my daughter's was playing at Hot Monk. They have this little thing, and it's darker than it looks. And so
it's dark in there. Yeah.
So I took a shot, and
that's why everybody looks good in there, right? Because
it's really dark.
Yeah.
And anyway, so and I was dealing with grain, and I just forgot. I hadn't used it for so long. There's Neat Video, and so I went ahead and upgraded to Neat Video, the newest version or whatever, and put it into Resolve. And I just forgot how great it was. So if you look at, let me show you
it reduces grain.
Yeah. So if you look at it here, so this is
okay.
Let me.
Is that your daughter singing right there?
No. That my daughter is playing the guitar right there.
Oh, yeah, there she is.
Guitar, yeah, so
nice guitar.
But when she bought it herself. And anyway, but if you turn it off and you start to, let's see if I go into 100% here, so you can actually see it. You can see the grain on here, but if I turn it back on, it just completely. I don't know if you can see it through Zoom, but it is.
No, yeah, we're not seeing, but
you're not seeing a lot of it, but it's dramatic. And
nice.
It used to take a long time to fix these kinds of things when things were underlit. And it was again, one of those things that I hadn't used in a couple of years and then popped it in. And I was like, oh, I forgot how great this just works. It just, you turn it on, it analyzes the frame, and it immediately gives you a nice smooth image. So anyway, it's if you're looking for something I shot something with a phone, or even this was shot with a Blackmagic 6K, and it was underlit, and I had to gain up to get exposure. That's the solution. So Neat Video is the solution. It's not incredibly expensive and not incredibly cheap. I think it's about $180.
Yeah, it depends on what program you're using. It works with pretty much everything. If you're using Resolve, it's $100. Final Cut $79.90.
Yeah, so I have the Resolve version of it because that's where I do kind of a lot of my hard work. So,
cool. Nice. Works with everything. Wow, that's great. Good pick. All right, let's see. That leaves you, Andy Anako, your pick of the week.
Well, I found out that Chrome updated itself on me a couple days ago. I found that out by the fact that my uBlock Origin ad blocker stopped working because Chrome decided to get rid of a lot of the support for plugins that allow it to run ad blockers. Manifest V3 is the name of the pane. And my web experience in Chrome started to stink like immediately. Like sites that I've been using all the time, like I don't try to get out of viewing ads. It's just that when there's ads that cover up half the screen and I have to dismiss them in order to just read anything, I would rather not do that. Not at 8 a.m, not when I've only been awake for a half an hour, please. So as a result, I've been looking at alternatives, and I started playing around with Zen Browser. You can find it at zen-browser.app. It's a fork of Firefox, so it's based on Mozilla's browsing engine. And it has a lot of ad blocking technology built in, just like Brave and a couple other browsers. But it also takes some style from the Arc browser, where it's a modern take on browsing where It understands that you're not necessarily viewing web pages in a web browser these days. You're also running apps and using services through a web browser. So there's a big vertical panel to the left side of the screen where a lot of your tools live. And so a lot of things are very, very streamlined. I don't know. I've only been using it for a couple of days now, so I don't know whether it's just different, and I'm enjoying the fact that things are different and a little bit prettier. It'll take a couple of weeks for the rubber to meet the road and figure out if I can actually replace Chrome as my browser. But I'm enjoying it a lot. It's very early goings, so it's not 100% hard, and it does like sort of fritz up occasionally. But again, it's based on Firefox, so the web display is not really a problem. Another thing I'd like to keep diving a little bit deeper into is all the customization that it has. So really, if your mail client is really important, you'd like it to stand out, you can make sure that tab is always highlighted with underscore or always highlighted in yellow. You can install like special customizations. I think they're based on CSS, but it's not quite so tricky to actually put together. So basically, if you like it to be prettier, if you like to be a little bit more austere, some of these customizations are functional. Some of these are just to make it pretty. Like I said, I think part of I might go back to Chrome and just rely on uBlock Origin Lite, which is the lesser version of the uBlock Origin ad blocker that still works. But the thing is, I've been stuck in Chrome for years and years and years. I've never really looked at options because Chrome, a web browser, isn't a tool. You don't really use the app itself. You just use like the websites and the web services that you access through the app. So you don't really notice it. So it's taken a while to realize that, oh, wow, I actually kind of do like that idea of putting like all the service icons in that little column to the left. I really do like the way that I can split tiles like inside the actual view itself. So go to zen-browser.app, give it a try. Again, it's still pretty early days. It's not as hardened as Firefox is, certainly not as hardened as Safari or Chrome is, like as far as stability goes. But if at minimum, it will show you things that maybe you've been missing out on with Safari or Chrome. And it's also, by the way, another endorsement for Raindrop.io, which is a third-party bookmark tool that I switched to last year. If I was still using Chrome to master all of my bookmarks across all my devices, I'd be pretty much stuck in Chrome no matter what happens. The fact that all of my bookmarks are now accessible by whatever browser via a plugin, I have the freedom to switch whenever I want to. So I might switch back, but at least I have the freedom to try out something like Zen Browser.
Yeah, it's running on the Mozilla Gecko engine, so it supports
really?
Firefox.
Yeah,
and one of the reasons I think it's a good choice right now is people are a little concerned about Mozilla's change in terms of service. As you say, Manifest v3 is really a nightmare in the Chrome world. It means, actually Google is actively blocking uBlock Origin. So I'm gonna switch to Zen. I have been using Arc. I'm waiting for the day when Arc won't support uBlock Origin. I think that day is imminent because it's based on Chromium. I've always liked Firefox, but I really preferred Arc's UI. So I'm installing Zen Browser right now. For some reason, it won't let me go to zenbrowser.app. It says it's a insecure connection.
Oh, I got that.
That's something going on with me because I see John Ashley's able to go there. But I have a lot of protections running on this system, so maybe it's just
and for whatever it's worth, like as it is, I have 2 or 3 browsers that I use. Kind of Chrome is my main, but I also use a couple others just from time to time. It's possible that it'll be shouldered between Chrome and Zen browser if it keeps working well.
It's really interesting because he's completely copying Arc's user interface, which is great.
It looks exactly.
I'm very happy because I love Arc's user interface. The browser companies decided not to continue developing Arc. They're going in a different direction, so I've been looking for a replacement. I've got it going right now. This looks just like Arc.
And it's 100% open source too. So
yeah, I love that. Yeah, I got it from GitHub. Actually, you can install it with Brew. So I was able to do a Brew install Zen dash browser, and that worked. So
that's good to know.
Yeah. So even if I can't get to the website, at least I can install it. This is really nice. Thank you, Andy. Good recommendation. Did you say Raindrop is built in or?
Oh no, it's not. It's not built in, but again, it's a Firefox plugin, so it'll run.
Oh yeah, it'll work. Yeah, and it supports the Mozilla account for browser synchronization, which is great because I do have a lot of Mozilla stuff. So
yeah, that's
nice.
the only bummer. What I love about Chrome is that no matter what device I have, it's the exact same experience and the exact same data.
Yeah,
and I could never give it up because it's a good password manager. Again, multi-platform password manager.
I think you found a new browser for me.
Nice.
I appreciate that. Zen-browser.app if your security software lets you. Andy Ihnatko, GBH is calling, but when?
Week from Thursday at 12:30. Go to wgbhnews.org to listen to it live or later. And we'll be now. I have been informed that all of my appearances are going to be on YouTube, even when I'm not actually at the library. So
nice.
I have to shave and put on a nice shirt.
Oh, sorry. Oh dear. Thank you, Andy. Wonderful to see you as always. Micah Sargent, thank you for filling in for Jason Snell.
Pleasure.
It was really great to have you. You can find Micah all over our network. He's the last remaining, besides me, the last remaining staff host. You do some wonderful stuff in the club, and I really thank you for that. When's the next crafting corner?
That will be
coming up. Right?
Yeah. In fact, we're in March now. So, you can check out Hands on Tech and Hands on Mac and iOS today. Every Thursday, you can check out Tech News Weekly. And then in 2 weeks, you'll be able to check out Micah's Crafting Corner as we continue to work our way through the miniature. I think I'll be doing Lego after this. So I know some people are excited about that.
So the miniature is what's behind you right now, yes?
This is one that I built independently of.
Okay.
The
is
other
it a
one
gas
I have is
station?
kind of
What is it?
That is a little cafe. It's a coffee shop. It's just got an open area so you can see inside of it.
And you were building a kitchen last time I saw.
A kitchen, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what we're working on right now.
Oh, how fun. Thank you, Mike. It's always great to see you. Chihuahua.coffee.
Chihuahua.coffee. That's where I've got links to everything online. That's thanks to Renee Ritchie, who years ago said, you like Chihuahuas and you like coffee. You should make that I think it was actually during a read for Hover, who's been a sponsor on the network.
And
before.
you immediately
I said, I'll
signed up. Yeah. Awesome. It's great to see you. Always great to have you. I don't get to work with you as much as I used to, and I
know our listeners miss our chats, and so it's always good whenever we get an opportunity to hang out.
Yeah, it's really nice to see you. Thank you, Micah. And thank you, Mr. Alex Lindsay, who is the man of the hour, every hour at officehours.global. Q&A still going strong?
We hear it's a thing. We think it's the future. And lots of Q&A.
Nice.
So we're doing it every morning. We're getting ready for NAB. We'll probably do a couple days from there. We're getting our live views all set up. We're going to try to. We're getting a new mic. Hopefully it should show up next week for 5.1. It's a 5.1 mic. So we did last year. We did ambisonic. This time we're going to try an actual DPA makes an actual 5.1. This time there'll
be a subwoofer.
Yeah, exactly. So, so we're going to try 5.1 4K 60 HDR from the walking around. Looking at NAB, so that coming out of the North Hall, because the Central Hall is closed this year. They are rebuilt. They're remodeling it, so it's all in the North Hall. All the cool stuff's in the North Hall. All the software stuff. Well, Blackmagic's in the South Hall, but that's half of the South Hall is Blackmagic, and then there's a lot of other stuff. So we're getting ready for that. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be the beginning of April.
Exciting.
Should be fun.
I hope you use that subwoofer to good effect.
Yes, exactly.
What's your next Lego gonna be? I forgot to ask you, Micah. What are you gonna make? Do you know?
They're these little succulents.
Oh, you're gonna do the flowers. Yeah.
Like plants, but this
people
is
love
specifically
those.
the succulent set. Yeah.
Nice.
Did you see that someone, I don't know, I saw it on TikTok or something. Someone had a beating heart made out of Legos. With the little motors and stuff like that. And it was like,
oh, wow. Like the chambers were moving. That's neat.
Yeah. That is amazing what you can do with Lego. I want you to do that, Micah.
Yeah. Let me look that up.
I just said it as a challenge. I made it sound like I was just talking about something, but I really want to see Micah build a beating heart with it.
We do MacBreak Weekly on Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1900 UTC. Actually, next week we will be back to summertime.
Yes.
So we will be at 1800 UTC. I forgot. We set the clocks spring forward.
Not that I'm bitter.
Not that yeah. So we're going to set the clocks forward. So we will be at 1800 UTC, not 1900. Okay, we +7. Now, the reason I mention that is because you can watch us live. That's when you get the great discussions like we just had, which will certainly be edited out of the final edition. Well, now it won't be because I said it. You can watch live on 8 different streams. If you're a club member, you watch in the Discord. It's a great place to hang. That's one of the many benefits of being a club member. $7 a month. You get ad-free versions of all the shows. You get access to the club Discord. Events like Micah's Crafting Corner, where he's going to build a succulent. And
a beating heart soon.
And a beating heart, if we could just work on it. And I will be doing Thursday, Chris Marquardt's monthly photo segment. Always a lot of fun if you're a photographer and you like knowing more about photography. So please go to twit.tv/club twit, join the club. But you don't have to be a club member to watch live. There's also a YouTube stream, a Twitch stream. There's TikTok, X.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Kick. So you can watch us live anywhere. And I watch the chat from all of those platforms. So you can chat with us anywhere. After the fact, though, is probably how most people watch. You can download a copy of the show from our website, twit.tv/mbw. I just got the notice from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office that it's been 20 years since we trademarked Twit and the Twit logo that's behind me. It's time to renew. Wow. I never thought I'd have to renew that trademark, to be honest with you. You can also, if you wish, get a copy. The video is up on YouTube. Actually, that's a great place to go if you want to share a clip or two from the show, and we appreciate it if you do. But the best and easiest way to get a show, just like any podcast, find your favorite podcast player, even Spotify. Subscribe, and you'll get it automatically for free the minute it's available. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for listening to the show. We really appreciate it, especially our club members. But now it is, I'm sorry to say, my sad and solemn duty to tell you, get back to work. Break time is over. Bye-bye.